Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the July 31st, 2017 of the Marquette City Commission. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please rise with me and say the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, if we could have the roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Kimbenzi? Here. Commissioner Conley?
Here.
Commissioner Frazier?
Here.
Commissioner Plourd?
Here.
Commissioner Reynolds?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Baldini?
Here.
Mayor Campana?
Here. We have the agenda in front of us. Would someone care to make a motion to approve? Commissioner Frazier.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Is there a second? Commissioner Baldini.
Support.
All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? That carries 7-0. We come to announcements. I have two announcements. First, you have tires laying in the backyard and in the garage. Now's your chance to bring them in, turn them in at no charge. City of Marquette has received a grant from the Michigan DEQ, and in conjunction with the County Solid Waste Management Authority, they're going to collect this. They'll be collecting on Wednesday, August 2nd, 2 days from now, from 3 to 7 at Lakeview Arena. So you got tires piling up in the backyard. Now's your chance to get rid of them easy and at no cost. And will there be another, where's Kurt? Is there another collection site coming up?
No, this is the one for the year.
That would be e-waste, okay.
E-waste,
Yeah.
September 9th.
It's September, okay. So Wednesday, this Wednesday, August 2nd, 3 to 7, bring in your tires. The second item I'd like to list concerns absentee ballots. The last day that a person may receive an absentee ballot is Monday, August 7th, a week from today by 4 p.m. And if you come in on that Monday, you must sit down and vote it here in City Hall. You cannot take it home and bring it back. You got to do it here at City Hall. But the last day to pick it up is a week from today. Obviously, you can get in before that, but that is the last day. We have one public hearing tonight. That public hearing is Ordinance 660 to amend the Marquette City Code, Chapter 26, Article 3, Section 46, Definitions. City Clerk, if you could give us the background on that, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Background. Changes made to the zoning ordinance definitions of a homestay and vacation home rental require changing the same definitions in Ordinance 653, Chapter 26, Fire Prevention and Protection, Article 3, Rental Fire Safety Code, Section 4060, Definitions, Homestay and Vacation Home Rental. Fiscal effect none. Recommendation, adopt ordinance number 660, which amends the Marquette City Code, Chapter 26, Article 3, Section 46, Definition of Homestay and Vacation Home Rental. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing. If anyone wishes to comment to the Commission on this item, now would be your chance. We'll give you 3 minutes at the podium, the front podium. We need name, address, city or township. Does anybody wish to speak to us on this ordinance change? Anyone? Seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, do we have a motion? Commissioner Plourd.
I move we adopt ordinance number 660, which amends the Marquette City Code, Chapter 26, Article 3, Section 46, definitions of, quote, homestay and, quote, vacation home rental.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Reynolds.
Second.
Any comments? Commissioner Plourd, any?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to say that this is going to bring, I believe this is the last thing we need to do to my microphone here. The last thing we need to do to bring all of our codes in line, all of our definitions in line. These are definitions that we just need to bring up to date.
Commissioner Reynolds, anything?
None.
Any other comments? Seeing none, this is going to require, it's an ordinance. We need a roll call vote. City Clerk, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Kimbenzi,
Yes.
Commissioner Conley,
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier,
Yes.
Commissioner Plord,
Yes.
Commissioner Reynolds,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baldini,
Yes.
Mayor Campana.
Yes, that carries 7-0. Come to presentations. Tonight we have two presentations. The first presentation is the lobbyist update by Matt Kurta from Karub and Associates. Matt is here. I saw him. Matt, you know what? Usually we use that one over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and members of the commission. Didn't bring any slides tonight, just have a couple notes I'm going to speak from as to what we've been up to. Again, thanks for the opportunity to come up. Always nice to be above the bridge and back home and not below the bridge. Working on a number of things in coordination with the city manager, so I'd like to, for the benefit of the commission and for those in the audience, talk about some issues that we've been monitoring. And then also really just open it up for any questions, items that you would like us to focus on going forward, questions of things you might have heard going on statewide, or projects that you would like us to take on. Starting with a quick overview of some things we've been following the last year, a lot of action that has been happening at the state capitol with respect to brownfields, with respect to tax increment financing, both with respect to local reform, but also with respect to larger statewide projects, some concentrated in southeast Michigan, but obviously whenever you go down the road of doing dramatic tax incentive packages, you do have an effect statewide. So we've been ensuring that small communities both receive fair treatment, are not affected negatively, but also have the opportunity to participate in such programs if they so choose. One example would be what was called a transformational TIF package that was done a few months back, primarily for development in southeast Michigan. There's an opportunity for cities to do larger scale projects based on population size with local approval. So we've been keeping an eye on those things going on in the legislative arena. A couple of things we've been proactive on, worked with Northern with respect to the transfer of the prison property for the new cold weather. Not going to use the word everyone uses, the cold weather storage facility on the south end of town. We'll just go with that. But working cooperatively with them there. Also working on future planning for the armory. This is in very early stages, but armory consolidations and relocations are always a continual issue that is being raised at the Capitol. That obviously dovetails with what's going on at the federal level with respect to funding. But we've been engaged in discussions with the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, ensuring that we're at the table, and we are at the table. And I've been working closely with the city manager to ensure the city is a partner in any future potential changes. Again, nothing on the horizon in the near future, but it's something we anticipate, maybe something we need to work on going forward. So we're trying to establish some rapport and trust in that area. With respect to specific municipal issues of concern, you're going to be seeing some legislation this fall, potentially into the spring, dealing with recommendations of a local government responsible retirement reform task force. And this was a group that had a large stakeholder group, 12 or 13 members or so, representing municipal management, MERS, the counties, the townships, police and fire, folks from the private sector as well, folks from the Department of Treasury, really aimed at an initiative the governor's tried to kind of push up to the front burner going forward before he leaves office in the next 2 years. Not so much identifying issues on the local level with respect to pensions, but referring to what are referred to as other post-employment benefits and unfunded liabilities, commonly referred to as OPEB, that in some cities and municipalities are bigger issues than in others. Some cities are much farther down the line of troubles. Not all cities are in the same place. Some folks have huge liabilities, some folks do not, some folks have bonded. It's really an attempt to get at a uniform set of reporting requirements for local units of government, kind of so the Department of Treasury and the state knows where everyone is at, so we're measuring where everybody's at using the same standards. The fact that this was a work group that had participation from multiple parties, there was disagreement on a number of issues, as you can imagine. So not a lot coming forward with respect to mandates. Obviously, there would be heavily unconstitutional issues there. But a number of recommendations that were issued that didn't have full support of the whole group. So we're most likely to see some reporting requirements. There will be an attempt to address future pre-funding of OPEB benefits for communities that still offer contractual other post-employment benefits such as health care. But really at this point what we'll be monitoring is working with the Michigan Municipal League to assume that nothing is done that would be kind of trumping local control at the state level, trying to ensure that local governments are partners in the process. There will be a municipal stability board that will be established to help provide technical assistance to local units of government struggling with future pension and health care liabilities. But whether or not that body really has an ability to impact or force decisions on a local level is highly unlikely. It will be more of an advisory technical body. When you get into the realm of state panels that make local decisions, we can see over the last 5 or 6 years that generally doesn't end well for any parties involved. So we'll be following that very closely. We anticipate a product will be very similar to what was done for school districts with respect to an early warning package for schools that were in financial trouble, identifying metrics and trends that can assist municipalities as needed. So it's very early. There's a retirement reform work group report the task force issued that is available from the state. And it has an executive summary of the issues that the group is going to be pushing or giving forth to the legislature in the near future. Don't expect it to be an incredibly controversial issue, but obviously a big deal for a number of communities throughout the state. One other issue that we've been involved in is a while back, legislation was introduced affecting short-term rentals, the VBOs and the Airbnbs of the world. That legislation, very short, page and a half, which was advanced primarily from realtors and property rights groups that initially drew some pushback from MML and local government groups. That'll probably come up this fall, and we are talking to bill sponsors and working with other parties who are looking to find a middle ground, which I anticipate will happen at some point. But what the city has done with respect to your ordinance is being looked at favorably by a number of groups around the state as a reasonable proposal going forward. I think everyone realizes you're not going to have everything that the short-term rental folks want. You're not going to have everything that local units of government want. At some point, you need to find some common ground, and there's a desire to get there. So I've been working with MML to see if when a compromise is crafted, what the city has done can hopefully serve as a model there. Not sure what that's going to look like going forward, but I've been conveying back to the city manager regularly who is involved. So we'll see if that happens when the legislature comes back in September. Otherwise, probably not a very heavy legislative schedule this fall, especially heading into next year being an even-numbered year. But other than those issues, really wanted to take some time to see if folks on the commission have anything specific you'd like us to be focusing on. With respect to projects coming up within the city, if there's issues that you're having with state departments. Otherwise, spending time just, not always moving the ball down the field, but making sure that things are not done at the state level that negatively impact locals can also take up a lot of workload as well. So said I would keep it short, and I'll stop there.
Thank you. Commissioners, anybody have any questions? Commissioner Baldini.
Thank you, Matt. Might the legislature attempt to do
to municipalities what they did to schools, forcing a change in the way we fund. In other words, they want to go to a defined contribution rather than a defined benefit. Now, it's different. The state's liable for the teaching, but that hasn't stopped them from doing other strange things. And I'm just wondering if they're going to try and do that.
Yeah, and now that retirement reform discussions with respect to the public school employees system have wrapped up and have been passed and signed into law, I will say the appetite is not there for a wholesale overhaul of all things related to employee compensation and pensions at the local level. There are folks in the legislature who would like to go further. There are certainly interest groups throughout the state who would like to go further and make the same attempt that was done at the state level with the teacher pension system to prohibit defined benefit plans going forward. At this point, while you may hear some discussion, the legislative appetite for making that drastic of a change is not really there. It's more so looking to focus on assisting communities with liabilities already incurred. And some folks in Lansing would like to take a look at funding overall and whether or not it's time for an overhaul of local finance, but that's quite a mountain to climb as well with 148 legislators and probably 148 different opinions as well.
Can I follow up on that? In the city of Marquette, we maintain our payment. We're required to pay X, we pay X. But I know some other municipalities in the state haven't. And sometimes I wonder if maybe our due diligence and being good guys, we're going to get punished at some point because somebody will say, let's pick up the, pay for some of the other ones. I hope they don't do that, but there is that concern. I mean, it's something we promised employees, and I feel it's our commitment. But I got one other question on the veterans facility. The state has decided they're going to build smaller regional veterans facilities. We only have the two in Michigan, one being here across the street, and the other one in Grand Rapids. But the article that was in the paper recently said they're really not going to get around to the Marquette one maybe for 10 years, but probably downsize it. And so obviously that would, it's very important to us. It's important to the Upper Peninsula. And I don't know if downsizing the UP means they would build other regional ones or they would just assume the UP would be, but it is full. So yeah, I think it deserves watching.
Yeah, that's one item we're going to follow closely. An authority was created ostensibly with a goal of 10 years down the road, should funding become available, whether from the state or federally. If you could design a system from scratch, would you have two in the state that are very large, or would you try to find a way to regionalize those operations? Obviously, that's a laudable goal, but we would be working closely to make sure nothing negatively affects the city and the Jacob Eddy home at a minimum. We'd rather see additional access granted going forward and expansion rather than taking away from what we have.
Commissioner Cambenzi?
Do you have anything new to report on the state Supreme Court, I guess, clarifying a test for charitable institutions, tax exemptions, in terms of what the tax tribunals have ruled, of what qualifies an institution for that?
I've not heard anything new from the Supreme Court. There was a legislative attempt last fall to expand the definition of charitable institutions, something that was advanced by some healthcare groups downstate that I believe it was about to receive a hearing or may have received a hearing and then quickly fell apart under scrutiny and public pressure. I'm not aware of that coming back legislatively, but not aware of a Supreme Court decision, but something I can follow up on.
I know there was an article, I guess it was an assisted living home, I think, somewhere downstate, and just trying to get a handle on what exactly the definition is. And I think that's important for us, not only with healthcare, but as more and more business owners look to that mechanism, we certainly see it hit the city still, as we have something on our agenda tonight. So, yeah, anything you could send our way would be appreciated.
Okay, will do.
Commissioner Conley?
Thanks for coming, Matt, and thanks for watching out for us in Lansing. And that's something that's particularly important in these months now that John has passed and we don't have direct representation. I was interested in what you said about short-term rentals. Yeah, and as I understand it then, they're looking at our ordinance and thinking that that's going to be okay?
We have suggested that what the city has done might be a feasible middle ground. Really, you know, the way, 3 bullet points of what the proposed legislation has introduced would do. Specifically allow short-term rental of residential properties with respect to zoning. Again, the bill amends the Zoning Enabling Act, just that one act. Would provide short-term rentals not subject to special use or conditional use permits, or essentially treatment from those required of other dwellings in the zone. Says that short-term rentals are not commercial uses of property, and specifically doesn't prohibit local ordinances or regulations, but requires that they're uniform and consistent with how you handle other rentals, not short-term rentals in dwellings, but your standard hotels and motels. So I will say discussions have really not advanced past here's some ideas for folks to consider. There is not a legislative appetite to pass it as is. There's going to be a little more robust discussion. And I think Marquette and a few other communities have kind of taken this on and tried to find a way to make things work for both sides. Some communities have chosen to stand up and fight. Some communities have not. So it differs across the board. But I've been attempting to position us as someone who could bring both sides together.
Is MML stepping up for cities?
Yeah.
Good.
We've been letting MML know of anything that I've been up to and discussions we've been having and keeping them informed.
Great. I was really alarmed it looked like in the free press at the end of June that it was on the fast track and was going to go through as those 2 bills that were about a page and a half and almost identical, Senate and House. It looked like that was going to go through and just preempt our ordinance, which our planning staff and planning commission had put in a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah, there was action. They were poised to see some action, probably not more than a committee hearing in May and into June as the legislature adjourned for the summer. But if not for the folks like the Michigan Municipal League and the Townships Association, kind of letting legislators know, hey, put the brakes on here. This is a little bit too much too soon. That slowed things down in the legislature. And I still think there will be an attempt to move, but oftentimes in the legislature you start with everything you want and you work backwards from there. And I think that's what you saw happen. And if you want something to happen, you create the impression of movement and wait till someone pushes back. And that's what happened.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, Matt, well, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Hope to see you here again soon.
Thanks for the opportunity to come up.
Thank you. We come to our second presentation of the evening. That's going to be by the Marquette Redevelopment Authority. And Director Sherry Davis will lead us on this. Sherry?
Good evening. Delighted to be back here with you. Wow, that was a fast year. And some amazing, amazing things going on, as I think you've all probably noticed. I'm standing in for our chairperson, who is en route, but I'll do my best to fill in for her. I also have one of our board members here, David Allen, and thank you, Commission, for appointing him. This is an awesome man to add to our awesome team. He has a very strong environmental background, and we have a pretty neat group, so thanks, David, for being here. We'll move on to the PowerPoint that we typically share with you. As you know, we were established by the City Commission in January of 1997. We continue to work with revitalization of contaminated, blighted, functionally obsolete, and historic property. We have lots of it in Marquette. And our biggest challenge, and the reason we exist, is to help with the extraordinary cost to develop sites that wouldn't be developed otherwise because of the extraordinary cost, and that's where we sort of come in. By capturing the incremental taxes resulting from the private investment to reimburse the extraordinary eligible activities, meaning they pay up front, we collect the taxes, we pay them back. So it's a win-win all the way around. The brownfield plans must be approved by the MBRA, the Marquette Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, and the City Commission. For state tax capture, Act 381, a work plan must be approved by MBRA and the state. We've had wonderful cooperation and support from the state and ongoing terrific support from the city of Marquette. This is our current board. The asterisk by Rich Rossway is that he is, his term is over. However, under the codes of the city, he is allowed to continue until someone new steps up and is reappointed. So we have a full board for the first time, I think, since I came on in about 5 years ago. We have, as I said, a very a broad board as far as experience and things that they bring to the table. So, and we have wonderful support with the city treasurer, Mary Schlitt, who just does an awesome job for us, and Gary, who's always there when we need him. And Jen LePage has been really wonderful in helping us out. The development agreement that we develop describes the terms and conditions for the brownfield tax capture, including all of the financial obligations of the authority, reimbursement, the developers and payment of bond issues are limited to the captured taxes. Bond issue payment takes the top priority for captured taxes, and I'm sure you've seen that in the brownfield plans that as they are developed, the first person that is going to collect, if there's a bond issued, is going to be the city. And then there's a waterfall that happens after that, including the brownfield, and then ultimately back to the developers. This is the Founders Landing project. I know last year we were sort of in a holding pattern. There were issues that had to be worked out, but were worked out. I'm sure you have observed the construction that is going on there. And with this current, the investment that they currently have, the $21 million and 39 full-time jobs, obviously as the parking structure gets built and we move on to One Marquette Place, we'll be looking at more jobs. And this is the next phase of One Marquette Place, showing the underground parking. The Liberty Way project, I think we can all remember back to what it looked like to see the sad bakery sitting there and looking at this fabulous structure that has employed so many people and has really been a connector between the downtown and the rest of the city of Marquette, with the estimated return of over $11 million in property taxes over 30 years, estimated job creation, phase 1, 29 jobs, phase 2, 21 full-time employment, UPHB, 148 jobs, with the potential of 10 more in the next 18 months at 925 West Washington. And again, when you think back to the bakery and think about this, that's pretty awesome. The Nestle Down continues to hold their own, and they get pretty good reviews from the folks that visit there. And like any B&B, they have returning people that come there and say, wow, I can't believe you're here. The very first bed and breakfast in the city of Marquette, and we're really, really proud as a Brownfield Authority to have been a part of bringing this first B&B. And they have continued on in a very strong fashion. The City Municipal Service Center, we're really excited about looking forward to their grand opening, which I believe is August 11th at 10 a.m. And the opportunity for the 280-bed medical center and the medical offices, which are ahead in construction, and all you have to do is drive down the highway and take a look over on either way and see the amazing progress that is being made there. And this gets into the brownfield plan and the return on the investment, so to speak. The $4 million in environmental activities, $3.5 million in demolition and site prep, 31.7 million in infrastructure, and this breaks it down into all of the costs that have gone into these amazing facilities. And I did chat with the point person at Duke Life Point and discussing the jobs that are going to be there, and her comment was, we have 2,100 jobs. Now we would anticipate 2,100 jobs. So we can continue to move along in creating this center that is not only going to be a highlight for the city of Marquette, but a highlight for the entire Upper Peninsula. And the LDFA district was established in October of 2014, and they're similar to a brownfield in that they also capture TIF on most properties. And it will impact future brownfield projects. And we have met with the LDFA on how we're going to work out those projects. They have been really terrific about wanting to be part of the team. We do have 2 projects that are currently pending that will require going to the LDFA and also the DDA. And we anticipate that we can all dance together very well. We all speak to one another, we all work together, and we all look at what the future can be. So I don't anticipate any issues there, but this is part of what we will now be doing. Moving on to the key projects, we will continue obviously watching Founders Landing grow and develop after they get the parking structure up in One Marketplace comes into its own. We've seen Liberty Way Staybridge and the UP Health Plan fall into place. The hospital will be obviously our next big opportunity here. The integration with the LDFA for new brownfield projects, increased promotion of the brownfield, and presentation of the Ember project on a national scale. Along that line, I have applied on behalf of the Brownfield Authority in a poster competition at the National Brownfield Conference, which is to be held in Philadelphia in December. They don't do Hawaii in June or anything, so. But Philadelphia in December, and we're hopeful that we're going to be able to come and show them some of the amazing things that are going in our city. And talking about the transformational project, I'm really excited about that because, you know, I guess I'm a believer, and I think we've got some transformational projects here, and I want to see Marquette have that transformational project. It's pretty high competition, but we're Yoopers after all, so we're going to continue on trying to see what we can do with that. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Sherry.
Welcome.
Commissioners? Commissioner Frazier?
The last MML meeting we were at, I met with somebody from Houghton. They said they outrank us from brownfields. But I think our brownfields are a lot that been developed are a lot fancier in their places. They may have more brownfields, but ours are just, the one they've developed is just amazing. You know, Liberty Way, who knows, I mean, that the old Buddy Brothers, I looked at that building, I don't know what they'll do with it, then look at that place now, it's just amazing. The next thing I see you guys coming up with is their next big project would be the Presque Isle Power Plant. If that goes under, they're calling for it in a couple of years, that's going to be a major cleanup. It's going to be a lot of work for somebody. But I think that's going to be a nice piece of property for somebody on the river or near the lake. Maybe ship all the coal down to this BLP or something like that. But that's going to be a nice little place for somebody to develop. It's probably going to be a long development process like everything else, but be a nice project. You guys may have your hands full with that one, I think, somehow.
But we can handle it. We're ready. Any other questions?
Commissioner Conley?
Thanks for what you do. It must be gratifying to see the fruits of your labor as you drive around the city and see the actual buildings go up and say, yeah, that's what I was thinking of, years ago. And it really is coming to life. I really particularly like the idea of all the jobs that are here and all the employment opportunities that are being presented in Marquette, because that's always been a big problem. We always talk about our biggest export was our children. and they get to come back here and work. Question I have is, One Marquette Place, of course, is going up. We see the cement parking structure part of it. I don't know if I'm saying this right, is it 2 Marquette Place, the second phase of that, the next building over?
I believe it is, yes.
Has that come through the MBRA yet, or does it? Has it already?
It's really kind of part of the whole program.
It is.
Yeah, it's a phased program, so, yeah.
So you don't have to, like, go through that process for that second phase?
No.
It's already, that's done?
I believe so,
Okay,
yes.
good. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Cambenzi?
Well, I have a question. This came from a resident. They were wondering what parameters are used to kind of determine whether or not you support a brownfield. What if different businesses come up, what are the key factors that determine a yes or a no? And I didn't know where to point them to find that, so I don't know if you can share
Sure.
a little on that.
Well, I have a tough board, there've been a few projects that have come and gone, but they kind of look at the project, they look at what's in it for the city. Obviously we'll look at, is there going to be enough money to pay it back? That's kind of the first parameter, but the board is pretty focused on what's in it for the community. So they really want to know what's going to be added. It's kind of a value-added sort of thing, if you will. It's like, the boardwalk with the Hampton and the bike path with the Viridia and some of the other projects we have talked to. There has to be something there for the common good so that people, really experience, okay, this is where my tax dollars have gone. And the other thing they look at is this something that someone would do anyway? If they would come in and they don't need us, well, we're probably going to step back a little bit and say, we really need to be there for the people that really need us, that if this is going to make the difference between are they going to do this project, or are they not going to do this project, the board looks at that pretty hard. So, but I think those two components are pretty consistent with the board.
Any other questions? Well, Sherry, thank you very much for appearing here tonight, and thank you for your presentation. Hope
Thank
to see you back soon.
You bet.
Thank you. Okay, we come to our first public comment of the evening. Public comment is when citizens may address the commission. It's also a time where if you wish to talk on one of the business items coming up later in the meeting, come to the podium, give us your name, address, and what item number you wish to speak on. Okay, we're going to open public comment. You have 3 minutes to speak. We need front podium, please. We need name, address, city or township. Home address, city or township.
Good evening. I'm Steve Laurie, 1813 Woodland in the city, but representing Chalkley Township, and I'm just here to answer any questions you may have on item 8 on your agenda.
Very good, thank you.
Dan Bierman, 150 Mangum Road, out in Chalkley Township. I'm a current co-owner of Superior Hockey LLC, which is a current tenant of the city of Marquette, located in Lakeview Arena. On tonight's consent agenda, there's a proposed agreement for Superior Hockey to occupy a new space inside Lakeview Arena. The space we're going after is was formerly occupied by City of Marquette engineering staff. In this lease, there's some verbiage involving a rent increase over the course of the lease that we would like to see altered or possibly removed. One of the reasons being is over the course of a 5-year lease, with the way it's written, our rent would have the potential to double over the course of that term. Some of the factors in that that we're thinking this is, one, any renovation that happens inside that building, we are 100% liable for. All those, anything that happens comes out of our pocket to do so. Another reason, right now, it's cost effective for us to be inside that building. With these increases that could potentially happen over the course of the term, it could drive us out of the building, and we would be forced to look elsewhere to rent a space to do business. We've enjoyed our relationship so far with the City of Marquette and Lakeview Arena, and hope to continue it going forward. If at any point in time there are questions, I'd love to answer them or field comments. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Matt Lutenberger, 1406 Garfield Ave, here in Marquette. I guess sitting in the front row, I should probably take the lead on this. I'd like to speak on number 9, number 5. Please, that'd be great. But I'd also like to point out that July 26th, there was a story here from the BLP that they had their consultants talk to them about what the BLP should expect as a business plan and as a how they're doing things. And one of the things I just wanted to point out is that I don't wear a suit, but this guy does, and he's saying exactly what I did. So things such as free energy, transmission constraints, these are all things you don't have to worry about. So in some way, what you're about to approve for $20 million is to put us into debt for things that literally the BLP was just told you're going to have to fix. Like the BLP as a business plan has to look into the concept of us putting solar panels up here on the rooftops, us putting a electrical generation plant down at our waste management area. These are all things that are coming along, and they're coming along faster than your Johnson Controls guy was saying a couple years ago. So the people, not Johnson Controls, I'm sorry. There's another, the Ray Johnson from who now runs Invent NMU and that whole Smart Zone Marquette. He suggested it was going to take 5 to 10 years for batteries to be close enough for us to be commercially available. That's now cut down to 3 years. Things like that are coming along faster. I just want to say that we as citizens take our time to come up here to tell you things. I see the full house. Please listen to every one of us. It feels like when we try to explain something to you based on our personal either experience or objective or observations, we are dismissed as in thanks but no thanks. So in that sense, I'm running for city commission. I really would love everybody to go out and vote. I don't care who you vote for, but good luck, Ms. Cambenzi, in your race. Please, there's a lot of things on the ballot, and I won't take up any more time, but please go out and vote in, 2 weeks from now? Thanks.
Thank you.
Frank Jefferto, 350 East Ridge, Marquette, to speak on item 9. These are my opinions. Despite opposition from the public and business owners, parking meters now clutter our downtown. A member who opposed them last March 27th mentioned a town that installed them only to remove them within a year. Let us send the same message. Other members also opposed the meters, while Mr. Connolly favored them, not only downtown, but also at the arena and at our lakeshore parks, because people on both coasts pay for parking. Therefore, we should pay for parking here, he implied, which is to compare a bird to a brick. My comment fell on deaf ears that on the coasts, hundreds of people vie for the same spots, yet he and apparently our DDA are fine with bringing the mentality to of the coasts and everything else that follows to our streets. It's fitting to note that at this juncture, the Traffic and Parking Committee is down to 4 of 7 members. This comment isn't for my convenience. I seldom park downtown. It's the ugliness of those meters and the message you're sending about us to our visitors. In traveling 48 states, I found that the most hospitable places are those who appreciate their visitors enough to provide free parking. That leaves more money to spend at local businesses. Those ugly meters make our downtown look so controlled and inhospitable. If our business owners aren't willing to speak up for the love of themselves and us all, The public is reminded that there's free parking in the township with deals on most anything money that anyone would want to buy. Even the coffee is great. For changes that impact the character of Marquette, public hearings are essential at the commission level. The DDA has done well to provide us a stellar downtown, only to taint it. The public is urged to please not plug those meters. Please tell your friends and visitors to park farther and walk if possible. Help us prove that greed doesn't pay. Twice lately, Mr. Plord claimed that I give this board nothing it can use. One comment mentioned my past advice to build from the developed parts of town outward instead of the far reaches first, that the cost of running infrastructure is exorbitant unless there's adequate density along the length of the line. I mean, that's $1 million advice. How about the erosion at Picnic Rocks? Is it not pertinent that we're losing our park while he sits idle? How about Lighthouse Park, where the simple removal of an ugly fence can afford us safe access to a third of the land that we've waited too long to enjoy? Most telling was the advice he ignored to account for wind and carelessness in your open burn ordinance. This in response to June 26th agenda discussion, not an item of mine, but fire pits, which this board brought up. It must be pertinent. An idea that can save our city from burning again? None of 7 members realized that wind needs to enter into any discussion about outdoor fire. If only Mr. Plord would understand.
Anyone else?
My name is Alan Albee. I live at 9958 Ridgewood Drive, Minocqua, Wisconsin. My wife and I own 71% of Eagle Waste and Recycling. My mother and my 5 brothers own the other 29%. I started Eagle Waste and Recycling based in Eagle River, Wisconsin on July 1st, 2005. At that time, we had 7 employees. We currently have more than 50. I would like to reserve some time to speak on item number 9.
Thank you.
Good evening, Brad Austin, 120 Woodland Drive, Negaunee, Michigan. I'm here representing the Solid Waste Authority along with Mr. Yell. And we'll take any questions on item 9.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Anyone else wish to address the commission at this time?
Evening, my name's Tony Ruiz. I live at 333 Alger Street here in the city of Marquette. And, I've been on municipal boards before, and I can say, unfortunately, you get people who a lot of times come to complain. And I do want to say that I think Marquette's wonderful. You guys are doing a wonderful job. And I am, unfortunately, here to complain about an item on the agenda, and that's number 9, the curbside residential waste. I've lived in a number of different communities, both in the UP and downstate, and I've never seen a system, and I'm sure there's a reason for it, and I've tried to educate myself on it, on why I buy bags to put my garbage in and also pay for garbage service. It makes no sense to me. I've lived, everywhere else I've lived has the automated bins, and they're wonderful. They make the city look a lot better. They make the communities look a lot better. And where I would look at would be Escanaba. They've had those automated bins for years now, and it's great. They're huge. You fill up your recycling. You don't have to bifurcate recycling. You don't have to bifurcate garbage. You throw it in there, put it out, they pick it up, and it neatly and nicely goes away either in your garage or somewhere else tucked in. This bag business, especially, I live over by Val's Party Store, and get a lot of college students, and they're throwing their bags halfway in the street, throwing their bags here, throwing their bags there. It would control not only things for homeowners, but also for landlords and I think the tenants as well. I don't know how the city came to approve this. I got to go to Walmart or wherever to buy a bag. I'll honestly tell you this, I've lived in the city for 3 years, I've never bought a bag. I take my garbage to a dumpster for a business that I own. it's worth it for me not to go through the hassle of buying bags. And even the notion of now having both a bag and a cart system doesn't make any sense to me. Help the residents with their pocketbook, come up with a system that's cheap and is bin only. I just don't see the need for a bag. I can go to my in-laws on a horse and buggy, but I drive a car. And that's the way I look at the bag system. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Yorma Lankinen, 8 Marquette Drive here in the city of Marquette. Yes, we do live in an incredible community. A lot of things happen here. We all generate garbage. The whole thing in garbage removal and disposal, my big concern personally is to be partner with the landfill authority on a recycling portion, however that settles out. The city of Marquette and Sands Township entered a partnership many, many years ago. And in this whole written process, it was stated that all the garbage stays in the county that's generated. Well, a small portion was deleted in that thing about recyclables because it wasn't an issue 23, 24 years ago. The bottom line is do not throw the landfill authority and the rest of the 21 municipalities under the bus by having somebody else take the recyclables out of this area. I urge you to, however that works out, is to keep those in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else wish to address the commission? Seeing none, we're going to close public comment. Now we move to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion? Commissioner Conley.
I move that we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Would there be a second? Commissioner Frazier.
Support.
Comments? None? Roll call vote because this contains resolutions. City Clerk, please.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Conbenzi?
Yes.
Commissioner Conley?
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Plurd?
Yes.
Commissioner Reynolds?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baldini?
Yes.
Mayor Campana?
Yes. Carries 7-0. Next, we move to unfinished business. We have 2 items in unfinished business. First item is the performance contract with Johnson Controls, Inc. City Clerk, could you give us the background on this, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Background. At the February 13th, 2017 meeting, the City Commission entered into a project development agreement with Johnson Controls, Inc. to provide a citywide energy-based performance contract solution. A performance contract has been developed and was reviewed at a work session on July 26, 2017. The contract specifies the project scope, the guaranteed cost and savings generated, as well as the payment terms. If approved, Johnson Controls will begin work immediately. The entire project is expected to be completed by March of 2019. The goal of the project is to identify and fund infrastructure upgrades to city facilities and utilities with an emphasis on energy reduction. JCI has guaranteed that these upgrades will be self-financed through the energy and operational savings generated. The project includes installation of advanced metering infrastructure for the water utility, citywide traffic controller upgrades, city hall renovations, street lighting improvements, and electrical cogeneration system at the wastewater treatment plant, improvements to water plant infrastructure, complete Lakeview ice system replacement, and numerous building envelope lighting and HVAC improvements. All costs to maintain the newly installed infrastructure are included in the project. Fiscal effect: the entire project will be funded through guaranteed energy and operational savings, CIP contributions, and utility rebates, and paid over a term of 20 years. Recommendation: contingent upon financing with Bank of America Public Capital Corporation through the tax-exempt lease purchase program under terms described in the resolution authorizing such financing. Approve the performance contract with Johnson Controls, Inc. for the city's energy savings improvement program at a cost not to exceed $27,940,723 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you. At this point, I would like to have Eric Steeman, Superintendent, give us some more information, if you would.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. As you know, about a year ago, we started this project going down the path. We started with an MOU, looking at a feasibility to see if this project is even right for the city. That led us into a PDA, Project Development Agreement, and about 6 months ago after we completed that PDA, we went through a comprehensive engineering analysis. Johnson Controls engineers went through the entire city, wall to wall, every facility, every energy bill, and they looked at our operations and came up with some ideas as to what we can do as a city as a whole to not only improve our infrastructure but improve lives for the citizens and be in a more sustainable community. All in total, they're looking at about a $28 million project. That $28 million will be paid through the $42 million of savings that's guaranteed to generate over the next 20 years. Those savings come through both energy and operational savings through improvements. The savings that, or the project that is mentioned includes things like advanced metering infrastructure, which is water meters, wireless water meter reading. That'll bring a lot of new technology to the community where people will be able to get online and see their water bill. We're going to move from units to gallons, so it's a little bit more intuitive for everybody to understand and look at their bill. Everybody understands what a gallon is, but a unit, 100 cubic feet of water is kind of vague. There's going to be electrical cogeneration at the wastewater plant that's been proposed. That's essentially taking the methane gas that's an off product of the wastewater process and turning that into electricity and heat and using that to drive the plant. Some of the other improvements include smart traffic signals. I mean, everybody that's been through Marquette gets frustrated. You get stuck light after light here. We're going to be able to have a communicating system. Each traffic signal talks to one another, and it'll be smooth traffic. It'll improve throughput through the city and make people a lot happier. Also, chillers at Lakeview. A complete ice system replacement. The chillers are getting old. We're looking to replace those with some new energy efficient models that are a lot less maintenance intensive. And then as well as a city hall renovation, which would include the upper floor to make it more customer friendly so that people can come in and do business in a much better environment. And then there's also a bunch of other numerous building envelope, HVAC, and lighting improvements. I mean, all the way down to the lighting in this very room would be touched. So really, we're looking wall to wall. The project really puts an emphasis on local contractors, especially at prevailing wages, to try to get the community working as much as possible. In fact, just this project alone is going to create over 78,000 hours of local labor just to make these improvements. So just in closing, this project is going to help improve city infrastructure and services by being a leader in sustainability, using dollars that we're already going to be spending anyways, whether it be on energy or operations. And in the end, it's all financed through this TELP, which is the Tax Exempt Lease Program. It's a new legislation that was passed recently through the state last year that'll allow us to take advantage of some a lease project versus a purchase buy down, which is helps it with our bonding capacity. It does not affect it. So all in all, I mean, we're going to get a self-funded project with guaranteed outcomes. We feel that with Johnson Controls, we have an excellent partner, and we really think it's going to be something positive for the city and the community and its citizens. So if there's any questions, I'll be here to answer. Also, there's Johnson Controls is in the room here behind me. If there's any other questions that you might have for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioners, do we have a motion? Commissioner Baldini.
You have Matt asked to speak on this item.
Number 5. Thank you. Mr. Lutenberger, would you care to speak?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. And thank you again. That was very informative. And again, I've been up here before. Oh, sorry. Matt Ludenberger, 1406 Garfield Ave. I've been up here before on these subjects, and I know I'm just kind of repeating myself. I guess what I'm getting down to the bottom line is it would be great to have a lot of these projects done right away, right now, with all these plans that we have. And please do. I also would like, though, to have the option to do others later on with different types of technology. Let's not settle in for the signals on the roadways with this current one right now. What would happen if 3 years from now we realize there are solar panels that you can use instead? These are things that I am looking for options in contracts. Anytime somebody says a 20-year contract that doesn't have an option, doesn't have a buyout, doesn't have a change in order system, scares me, and it should. At the same time, there's nothing you can do. You're signing us up, and that's fair because I do want a methane generating, co-electrical generating plant. I also want one next to the Presque Isle apartments so we don't stink up their rooms. Those are the kinds of things that if we break it down as projects and say this is something we can do this year, this is something we can do next year, this is another one, I would love to pay Johnson's to do that if that's the way we're going to go. It seems as if we have a whole litany of things that we need. For instance, why do we need new chillers for the ice at Lakeview? I mean, granted, I want ice to play, but didn't we just have Hockeyville? Didn't we have to get it to NHL quality ice? Do we really need, in this project right here, another set of funds going to Lakeview Arena for that reason? And maybe it wasn't covered. Maybe our chillers are good enough. But again, maybe they're good enough for NHL hockey. So in that kind of sense, I wish you keep an open mind. At the same time, I know you're going to probably sign this bill or sign this check for us. In 20 years, we will have more efficient things than what we have today to compare against. So we're going to be doing, in essence, in 20 years or in 5 years or in 7 years, a re-up of how well have we become efficient. Those are kinds of things that once we get to a certain point, it would be great. Johnson Controls, you got us 25% more efficient. Here's your contract, thank you, goodbye. But it doesn't have to be 20 years to do that. It can be 5, it can be 10, and it can also be $10 million. It doesn't have to be 20. 28, by the way, it went up a couple $1 million in the last couple of weeks. So we're getting expensive, so the quicker you say yes, apparently, the less expensive it's going to be. Thank you. I'm going to go take a drink, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we need a motion. Commissioner Baldini.
Your Honor, I would so move that contingent upon financing with Bank of American Public Capital Corporation through the tax-exempt lease purchase program, under terms described in the resolution authorizing such financing, approve the performance contract with Johnson Control, Inc. for the city's energy saving improvement program at a cost not to exceed $27,947,723, and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to sign the agreement.
Do you have a second? Commissioner Conley.
I'll second. Just with a correction, Pro Tem Baldini, you said 947,000. I think you were. That was probably a misstatement.
Yes, I stand correct. $940,723. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, comments. Commissioner Baldini.
Well, as you know, we've discussed this for some time, and I'm quite excited by it because we are going to identify savings in the city of Marquette by installing new technology. The technology is going to be installed in 2 years, 8 months, I believe, and I'll stand corrected on that, but it's 2 years and something, all of the work. And the money we save will then be used to pay back the debt. The state of Michigan, the legislature, saw the benefit of this and passed legislation permitting us to borrow the money and not bond for the money. We still carry the debt on our books. Gary has checked on that. We still will maintain our AA rating. Gary liked that. We all like that. And there is a discipline to this. The savings we take, we have to pay back. Johnson Control not only provides the engineering, they also provide some good accountants to show how we're going to do that, how we have to do that. If the savings is not realized like they suggest it should be, and it's not our fault, they then pick up the difference. And I like that. But they have a very good record of assessing what needs to be done, what can be done, and how much we can save. This will permit us to modernize a whole series of things which Eric identified, not just new street lights, new signals, upgrade all of our facilities. The chillers at Lakeview Arena are needed. It is a utilized facility in this community. A lot of people use it, and it is a problem for us, and it's very expensive. We hope to save money. Same thing with our wastewater treatment plant by new technology. So I'm excited by this project because the city manager brought it to us over a year ago. He and his staff, the Johnson Control then did all of the engineering assessment on it. They put an RFP on the street for the money, and it came back with the Bank of American Public Capital Corporation, I believe at 2.8%, and or 2.84, yeah, 2.84. But still, that's a very good rate of return, or good rate of interest. It will permit us to do a series of activities. Now, some of the things we will save greater amounts of money on certain projects and less on some others, but then we will take that money collectively to realize a $42 million savings to help us pay for all of this. And I know that every time we look at this, there's the opportunity of new projects or new technology or new science coming on. But we saw this as an opportunity to upgrade what we have here now. Yes, I would suspect that 20 years from now, things are going to be quite different. But the way for us to pay for these projects is to take the savings from these projects right now. Some people have suggested that, well, let's just pick the low-hanging fruit and use that and call it quits. Well, there's an opportunity for us here to do a series of things that Eric listed. And I think this is the opportunity. You know that saying, you've heard me say it here a couple of times, that the perfect is the enemy of the done. And we can wait to do things until it becomes perfection. I don't know where perfection is. And this changing age and changing technology, it's moving rather quickly. I think as one of our speakers indicated, the Tesla battery is moving very rapidly in its technology and its breakthroughs. So I think it has great potential. It brings with it the ability for us to modernize the city. It also brings with it the discipline for us to manage those savings, to achieve the new things for this community. And I think that's rather important. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Commissioner Conley?
This allows us to update some important parts of our infrastructure, and the updates have been deferred over the years, and now we're able to go ahead and modernize that equipment and those facilities. We could not accomplish this large scope of work on our own. We haven't done it in the past. We're not going to all in the future. There's other things that cities do well, but we can't. We have to go out into the marketplace and find somebody with these many different levels and different types of expertise, which is all under the roof of Johnson Controls. But our engineering staff would have to go out and learn each little aspect of this, and it would take a long time, and might not be done as well maybe as somebody who does this every day. It allows us to finance this, whereas we might have had to piecemeal finance it sometime in the future, and it's too easy to defer it. As Mayor Pro Tem Baldini said, this enforces a discipline. It makes us do this. We need to do it, and it allows us to do it into the future. There's been the idea of, well, let's just do the streetlight renovation with the Board of Light and Power. Hasn't happened yet. Probably won't. It's not on the BLP's
priorities either. They have a lot of stuff to do. This brings this in. Besides, they're in the business of selling electricity, and we're in the business of reducing as much electricity usage as we can. This will accomplish that. This plan will pay for itself. It will actually save us money. It reduces our ecological footprint, which we all want to do. And importantly, it creates 37 good prevailing wage jobs for people in the community. I can't say this enough times. We need jobs in this community, and this is one more way of providing them. Thank you.
Commissioner Frazier.
I agree with the other commissioners. I think it's a good idea. How often do you hire a contractor and they guarantee their work? If not, they give you some money back. That's a great thing, and hopefully it helps the city with everything. I mean, you could say just change the light bulbs. That's easy. Anybody could do that. But with all the stuff they got, they do their homework and they know what's going on in the city. They know how to fix everything. That's great. Hopefully they can fix Lakeview, because when I've been in the commission for the last couple of years, I've learned that Lakeview is to come from a boating term. Boaters always say boats are nothing but a hole in the water into which to sink money into. Lakeview is a hole in the ground into which the city gets to sink money into. Everybody loves it. It's a great building. Everybody use it for everything. But it costs the city a few bucks to run. Hopefully, after these improvements will help the city spend less money on paying for the building with all the energy and use it for more activities. I think it's a great idea.
Commissioner Plort.
I'm the first one to agree that we need to look for alternative savings in energy. I'm all for solar panels. I thank Mr. Lutenberger for his comments. But one of the things is, too, we need to do this right now. And everybody who pays a bill understands the only thing that goes down in price is gasoline once in a while. Otherwise, everything goes up. If we wait 6 months, everything that we're talking about, again, as Mr. Lutenberger mentioned, the price goes up. It's going to cost us more. We have an opportunity here to have a comprehensive change in the city that will bring us absolutely into the 21st, perhaps into the 22nd century, and really complete the cycle of what we started when we started with the Stay Bridge construction and all the other improvements that we're doing with the city. It's also been suggested that we have city staff do this. City staff are busy with their own jobs right now. One thing that hasn't been mentioned about Johnson Control and the advantage we have in the city, they handle everything. They will manage all the construction. They will buy the equipment. They are the experts. And make no mistake about that. They are absolutely the experts. So they will handle everything. They will do construction, and they've said to us that they will hire locally, as Commissioner Conley has mentioned. I see absolutely no downside with this whatsoever. When you talk about Lakeview Arena, and Commissioner Frazier mentioned it's a hole, that kind of a money pit. It is. We've been throwing money, we've been band-aiding. Is that a word? Band-aiding? We've been putting Band-Aids around. Let me try that again. Putting Band-Aids around all the ice making facilities and everything else at Lakeview Arena, and it's just going to cost more money if we don't do this. I've seen the plan. The work session that we had last week was very, very detailed. Johnson Control went through a lot of trouble to answer every question we have. They went down right to the penny. We have experts in the city who say this is the way to go. And I trust those experts, but not completely. I trust my own instincts as well. And from what I've seen with this, this is something we need to do, and this is something we need to do now. And that's why I'm supporting it.
Thank you. Commissioner Cambenzi.
Well, I've looked hard at this, and in fact, a year ago, I was excited to see if this was a possibility for the city. And after I looked into it, it's not me being a perfectionist. It's not me pushing things off. But one of the biggest things that I saw was other communities are changing out their streetlights and literally saving 65% of what they pay by changing out a $100 to $200 bulb and head. The city does not own our streetlights. The Board of Light and Power does, and we pay them $40,000 a month for the electricity and the cost of the pole and the fixtures. That adds up to about $500,000 a year. This Board of Light and Power is a city entity. Why are we not working with them? Why are we not going to the Board of Light and Power first and saying, you know what, we both work for the taxpayers? And I think what we need to do is come up with a way that we can work together to save the taxpayers money. And taking out a contract with Johnson Controls is not saving the taxpayer money. At the time this agreement is done in 20 years, Johnson Controls will be paid over $4 million. So I look at what's on the horizon for the city's tax base. I look at the We Energies power plant closing in 3 years, which is about a third of our tax base. I look at the Duke Life Hospital, that we need a 30-year agreement, for-profit hospital, to be here in order to pay off the debt that we bonded for the highway improvements. Or the city taxpayers get that debt. We can do this by working with the Board of Light and Power first. If you go to energy.gov's website, the first thing they say about energy performance contracts is figure out if you can do it cheaper yourself. I asked 2 questions I never got answers for. One is, what is the breakdown for the cost savings by Johnson Controls by taking over and replacing all of our streetlights? What is the energy savings? It's not up to the city manager and staff to make us get a meeting going with the Board of Light and Power. We are an elected body. We can do that. There are changes with staff at the Board of Light and Power, but there's not on the elected bodies. It is our responsibility to the taxpayers to make sure that if that needs to be done, we help our city manager and we make sure that those meetings can happen. We've got 2 committees, elected commissions right now, that can work well together. I think we have other things we need to deal with the Board of Light and Power, particularly the PILT payments. And I think that when you look at the savings, if we took out a $2 million bond, which would change out every streetlight in the city of Marquette, we can pay that off in about 6 years. So I sit here and I congratulate Johnson Controls for being great salesmen, but I'm not buying it. I look at our fire chief, and I know that in 2 years he needs 2 fire trucks at the cost of $900,000 each. I would rather buy 2 fire trucks for the city than pay a third party to tell us we're going to save energy when we already know we can do it. I will be voting no on this.
Thank you. Commissioner Con,
Just questions. Go ahead.
I just want to say that I like this contract. I think that we have the opportunity to have many energy savings projects that'll be completed in the city that we normally wouldn't get done. The financing of these projects will come from the energy cost savings that are realized from the improvements. It's cost neutral, it's paying for itself, and the savings is guaranteed by Johnson Control. This is a project that it's a widespread project. We have to take the whole project for it to work. They're saying we're going to save 42 million. It's going to cost 28, and they're going to back that up. So to me, it's a win for the city. We're going to get things done, and then that'll give us. We actually will have perhaps more funds available for other projects, streets, sewer, water, that really need attention. So I'm going to vote for this. Commissioner Conley, you had something?
Just a question for the city manager and staff. The contract presented on the agenda in our packet over the weekend didn't have the vehicle detection in every intersection. Will that contract be updated to include also known as traffic pucks, the traffic detectors, in all the intersections as we revise these?
We discussed that this afternoon. I'm going to let Eric answer that for you.
Yeah, you're correct. There's I think only 9 of them are in there right now,
Yes.
and we're looking at a way to see how we can fund that to get the other ones in there, because it's a little more complicated than just adding the traffic detectors. It involves some pedestrian improvements as well. So we got to work with our engineering department and Johnson Controls to see what that's going to take.
I don't want to vote no on the project. I want to just see that done. Because I hate waiting at some of the lights here. Presque Isle and Wright Street is one of them that wasn't slated for traffic detection devices, but you can sit there and you can't see anybody, coming or going, and you're still sitting there 5 minutes later. So I'd like to see this for all, and I think it saves energy. They do it on the West Coast because people burn less gas that way. They burn less gas and they put less carbon in the atmosphere that way. So I think we should do our part and put that for all intersections. Thank you.
Commissioner Baldini?
I appreciate Commissioner Cambenzi's comments, and she's correct that we could borrow the money and do a 20-year bond rather than this mechanism, just for that aspect of it. But as I said, it's like picking the low-hanging fruit and using the savings from that, and we're trying to spread it out over other ones. The report given to us by Johnson Controls says the energy savings of $570,511 annually, reducing our energy spend from $1,535,000 to $965,000 is a rather substantial savings. And I think that's important. And it's true, we could say, let's just do that piece of it. And we're taking the spending as fast. Oh, thank you. And passing that savings out to all these other projects that we plan to do, not passing it out, but using that savings. Thank you.
Commissioner Cambenzi?
Well, I want to be clear that the city is taking out the debt. The debt is in the city's name. So we will be going to the bank and signing that. And I believe it takes our total debt with the city over $120 million. And a year ago, it was around $54 million. So just to be clear that the city is carrying this debt, not Johnson Controls. We're just signing a contract with them. But the debt will be in the city of Marquette taxpayers' name.
Commissioner Reynolds?
Well, just to continue on, I voted no on this originally, and I'm going to vote no, and it's not for the multitude of reasons. I don't think JCI is a bad company, and I've had conversations with Ron. It's generally because of the amount of money that we're talking about spending in one fell swoop, and I haven't been convinced that it's necessary. I look at things like the water meters where he said they're good for 20 years, so in 20 years from now, do we have to replace them again and hire Johnson Controls again? Things like some of the water meters we're not replacing will go bad in 2 to 15 years, so how are we going to be replacing them, adding them to our capital improvements plan? So it's not a matter of that I don't think that some of these things need to be done. I'm not sure that I believe they all need to be done for $28 million, so for that I'll be voting no.
Question?
Seeing no further comment, we're going to vote on this. Roll call vote. Thank you.
Commissioner Cambenzi?
No.
Commissioner Conley?
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Plord?
Yes.
Commissioner Reynolds?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Baldini?
Yes.
Mayor Campana?
Yes. That carries 5-2. Next, we move to the second unfinished business item of the evening, which is a resolution authorizing equipment lease/purchase agreement. City Clerk, background, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Background. At its January 30th, 2017 meeting, the City Commission confirmed Johnson Controls, Inc., JCI, as the selected vendor for a citywide energy-based performance contract solution. A project development agreement was approved at the February 13th, 2017 City Commission meeting. On June 26, 2017, the City Commission authorized the signing of a term sheet with Bank of America Public Capital Corp. To provide financing should the project be approved in an amount not to exceed $23,500,000 at a rate of 2.74%. At a work session held on July 26, 2017, the recommended total project was presented by JCI at a total cost of $28,072,666. Bank of America Public Capital Corp., being the preferred financing partner, agreed to finance the additional amount and requested a new interest rate at 2.84%. The new terms would not have changed the outcome of the RFP as approved on June 26, 2017. Should the performance contract with JCI be approved at tonight's meeting, a resolution is being presented to approve the financing at an amount not to exceed $28,500,000 at an interest rate of 2.84%. The financing will be through the tax-exempt lease purchase TELP program. TELP is a new program in the state of Michigan and is also known as a municipal lease, a tax-exempt lease purchase agreement that presumes the city will assume ownership of the assets when the lease term expires. Fiscal effect, the project will be financed over a 20-year term at an interest rate of 2.84%. Recommendation, contingent upon approval of a performance contract with Johnson Controls, Inc. for the city's Energy Savings Improvement Program, approval resolution authorizing the financing through the tax-exempt lease purchase program with Bank of America Public Capital Corp. Under the terms described in the resolution, and authorize the city clerk to sign the resolution. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you. Because we just approved the performance contract with Johnson Controls, we are now able to go forward with this item. We need a motion. Somebody care to make a motion? Commissioner Conley.
I move that contingent upon, we've approved it, that the City Commission approve a resolution authorizing the financing through the tax-exempt lease purchase program and Bank of America Public Capital Corporation under terms described in the resolution, and authorize the city clerk to sign the resolution.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Frazier.
Support.
Commissioner Conley?
This goes hand in hand with the previous discussion and motion. Obviously, I'll support this. This is how we pay for the previous motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier, anything? Nothing? Comments anywhere else? This is a roll call vote. City Clerk, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Kamenzi?
No.
Commissioner Conley?
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Plurd?
Yes.
Commissioner Reynolds?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Baldini?
Yes.
Mayor Campana?
Yes. That also carries 5-2. Next, we come to new business. We have 5 items on new business tonight. The first item is to establish a Land Development Code Advisory Committee for the period September 5, 2017 through September 5, 2018. City Clerk, could we have the background on that, please?
Thank you, sir. Background. In order to ensure meaningful public involvement in the Land Development Code project, which is in the second month of a 12 to 18-month process, staff requests that the City Commission establish a Land Development Code Project Advisory Committee. The City Commission rules of procedure allow for the establishment of such groups, provided they have specific tasks to be accomplished and a date is set for dissolution of the task force. It is recommended that a task force be comprised of 8 members that would sunset after a 12-month period. The city planner will be the staff liaison to the LDC Advisory Committee. This group would be charged with the examination of all code-related documents produced by the consultants and staff for the project, and the provision of 1, feedback to the consultants and staff on those documents, 2, input on the project process, products, and coding proposals, and 3, communication with the Planning Commission on all recommendations. Staff recommends that the 7-member of the LDC Advisory Committee consist of 3 members of the Planning Commission, 1 resident and former member of the Board of Zoning Appeals, one development industry business owner, one architect or engineer from a locally owned development industry business, and 2 members of the City Commission. Selection of the LDC Advisory Committee members would follow the usual application and appointment process of all other appointed boards and commissions. Fiscal effect, members of the LDC Advisory Committee will serve in an unpaid volunteer status per City Code Chapter 2, Article 4, Division 1, Section 22-393. Minor clerical support will be supplied by the community development staff. Recommendation, establish a Land Development Code Advisory Committee for the period September 5, 2017 to September 5, 2018, and authorize the clerk to appoint 2 commissioners. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you. Tonight, we're just going to approve this. We do at some point have to name a task force to serve this. That's going to include 2 members of the City Commission, which I will have to appoint. We're not going to appoint them tonight. So if someone has a desire to serve on this task force, please let me know sometime in the near future. But I will entertain a motion for this item. Would someone care to make a motion? Commissioner Reynolds.
I move that we establish a Land Development Code Advisory Committee for a period of September 5th, 2017 to September 5th, 2018, and authorize the mayor to appoint 2 commissioners.
Would there be a second? Commissioner Baldini?
Support.
Any comments, Commissioner Reynolds?
I mean, this is the next step, and we're looking forward to this. We keep talking about the Land Development Code, and so does the Planning Commission. I think that this is a fair representation of people that would be a part of this, and good people that would have good contributions to this board. So I think that's why I'm voting for it.
Thank you. Commissioner Baldini?
Nothing, thank you. It's just we're following up on the investment that we've already made in hiring a firm, and
Good, thank you. Commissioner Conley?
Just a comment. I'm in favor of this too. I see that 6 out of the 8 members of this committee have to be city residents, and I would prefer that the other 2 also be city residents, because this is about our city, and our other boards are city residents only.
City Attorney, did you wish to add something?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just add that this is a task force, and they must be city residents. The ad hoc committee is different. It's made up of a majority of city residents, but a task force under our rules has to be all city residents. So that should.
And so this qualifies as residents only?
Yeah, it's called a task force, so it's got to be residents only.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? That carries 7-0. Our next new business item is Chocolate Township wastewater treatment plant capacity purchase. City Clerk, could we have that background, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Background. At the June 29th, 2017 Marquette Area Wastewater Treatment Advisory Board meeting, Chocolate Township requested to purchase additional wastewater treatment plant capacity. The additional treatment plant capacity is needed in order to accommodate wastewater flows from the proposed expansion of the Keweenaw Bay Indian Community Ojibwa 2 Casino Complex in late 2018. Following discussion, the Marquette Area Wastewater Treatment Advisory Board approved the following motion. It was moved by B. Schwenke, seconded by M. Cady, to recommend to the Marquette City Commission, the Chocolate Township Board, and the Marquette Township Board the sale of 2% of additional wastewater treatment plant capacity to Chocolate Township. The sale is to take place at such time that the wastewater flow from the Keweenaw Bay Indian Community Casino Complex is connected to the Chocolate Township collection system. The value of the treatment capacity will be based upon the authority's total net position, assets minus total liabilities. Approved 5-0. The 2% purchase will be split evenly between the City of Marquette and Marquette Township. Fiscal effect, the City of Marquette shall realize an estimated $56,000 revenue increase to the sewer fund. Recommendation, approve the sale of 1% of city-owned plant capacity to Chocolate Township and direct the city attorney to prepare an intergovernmental agreement amendment representing the sale. alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you. And I'd like to remind the commissioners that we have Mr. Laurie here from Chocolate Township to answer any questions that you may have. Do we have a motion for this? Commissioner Baldini?
I move that we approve the sale of 1% of the city-owned plant capacity to Chocolate Township and direct the city attorney to prepare an intergovernmental agreement amendment representing the sale.
Do we have a second, Commissioner Plort?
I second.
Thank you. Comments, any, Commissioner Baldini?
I think the clerk read the description and the reason, the rationale for it. It is the city of Marquette, Marquette Township, and Chocolate Township are members of this organization and the wastewater treatment plant. And as it indicated, we're going to sell 1%. Marquette Township's going to sell 1%. So Chocolate then gets the needed capacity that it has to handle this economic development.
Thank you. Commissioner Plort, anything?
Just to say, this is another opportunity for investment in the area, and it's going to benefit the city in the long run.
Commissioner Conley?
This is a way that we can take part in a regional cooperative effort. This development that we're selling part of the wastewater treatment and allowing then this development to happen will bring jobs to the community. It's a big expansion, and those are good jobs. And it will also increase, in our own self-interest, it will increase the amount that all the townships and the city get from the tribal revenue sharing. An example of that, one of those projects was the Emily devices at Little Presque and on Island Beach now for life-saving while the first responders get there. So that's just one example. So for all those reasons, I'll support this.
Thank you. Commissioner Cambenzi?
More so just a technical question for Mr. Laurie. Is the infrastructure currently there?
The piping is not in place at this point. The connection point that would be available to the project is approximately 5 miles from their building site. They have a design firm at this point studying the feasibility and possible routes to get there, and that's why we're asking that the purchase be delayed until there's actually a need for it. At this point, it appears that everything will fall into place for next year. They have a rather ambitious construction schedule to meet, but at this point, it's the most viable option that they've examined, and it appears that everything will fall into place by approximately July of next year.
Okay, and I guess one other question I have, would the township consider running water lines at that time?
That is something that I guess the township board would have to decide. They have informally discussed it with me on a number of occasions, and the interest both at the board level and at the citizen population level out there does not seem to be there at this point to purchase water. It would certainly be a big benefit for the township, in my opinion, but they have a number of other issues to address, and that's not at the top of the list at this point. I will be, I guess, recommending that they try to follow through with an update of the county master plan for water supply within the Marquette County area. That is something that I think you'll be hearing about in the very near future. There's efforts to try to upgrade or update a 20 to 25-year-old master plan at that level, and hopefully that will lay out a route for Chocolate to follow procedural-wise, and maybe some timelines on when it would be the ideal time to do that.
Okay, being sensitive to the financial cost of it, I know most residents might not want it, but just looking at the opportunity when they redid the highway. And now with this project, I'm guessing they're going to have to.
Well, it should have very little effect on the actual street system, because most of the route will probably be off into the right-of-way, the undeveloped right-of-way area of M28. It'll cross some driveways and things, but there's only a few blocks of actual paved street that are likely to be affected by the proposed route anyway. So I don't see it having a major impact on, economy of scale at this time. And the highway route is probably not the most likely route for water to reach the township anyway. It isn't available, say, at the wastewater plant. It has to come a lot farther back into town to get enough supply. So. Any other questions?
Mr. Laurie, yeah. Would it be safe to say that residents and businesses could tie into this sewer?
There will be opportunity for residents that border the route to tie in. Yes, the design that the tribe is supporting through their engineering firm is one that will try to make that line accessible to as many homes along the route as possible. It's undetermined whether that would become a totally voluntary decision or whether there could be some health code issues that would enter in and make some of the connections mandatory.
Does the township have plans to run main lines from that?
Not at this point, no.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any other comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Carries 7-0. Next, we come to our third item of new business, which is a contract award for BP 17-11 Solid Waste Collection Services, Curbside Residential. City Clerk, background, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The current contract for solid waste collection services expires on September 30th, 2017. A notable change from the previous solid waste bid package is that bid alternatives were requested for bagged collection, status quo, and/or wheeled cart collection. The second notable difference is the 7 to 10-year contract terms. This solid waste bid package is one of 3 main service areas that include residential curbside collection, municipal facility collection, and special collections. A proposed contract will be brought back to the City Commission for consideration. The term of the contract will be October 1, 2017 through September 30th, 2024. BP 1711 Solid Waste Collection Services, Curbside Residential, focused on weekly curbside garbage and recycling, rigids and fibers on alternating weeks collection. This bid also includes placement of recycling and organic drop-off bins at city facilities as part of the base bid and an option for curbside organic collection. Bid packages were sent out to 4 regional vendors, and the bids were publicly displayed and noticed. 3 responses were received, 1 regional bid and 2 local bids were opened on May 25th, 2017. Bid tabulation is attached. The recommendation is for the more flexible contract utilizing a system of bags and carts. The recommendation also supports the efforts of the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority recycling program. The alternate is the most cost-effective contract utilizing carts, only with single-stream recyclables being picked up every other week. The recommendation is being presented is based on City Commission comments made during a City Commission work session held on June 26, 2017. Attached is the correspondence from Eagle Waste addressing questions brought up at the work session. Fiscal effect, none by this action. Recommendation, authorize the city manager to negotiate a 7-year contract using bid alternatives A, bags, and B, carts for nighttime curbside residential solid waste collection services with Waste Management, Inc. of Michigan at the unit prices bid. Alternatives, negotiate a 10-year contract using bid alternate C, carts for nighttime curbside residential solid waste collection services with Eagle Waste, Inc. of Eagle River, Wisconsin at the unit prices bid.
Thank you. We have Scott Cambenzi, Superintendent of Public Works, here tonight. Scott, were you going to say something, or are you just here to answer questions? What is your choice?
I could probably say a lot, but probably just here to answer questions at this point, I guess.
Okay, thank you. And we have Brad Austin, who is from the landfill here, who will. Brad, you said you would answer questions. Did you want to? You didn't want to speak to this. You're just here to answer questions, correct? Okay, we had 3 people who wish to speak. Huh? I got 3 though. Mr. Albee. Well, we'll see. Mr. Lutenberger, you are the first.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't want to walk back in front of everybody. I figured it was safer to sit on the side. But Matt Lutenberger, 1406 Garfield Ave, here in Marquette. I produce probably one of our large bags a month. I'm a single adult male with dogs and cats. That's the amount of trash I create. I don't have an Amazon account. I don't do a lot of things. I do get the newspaper, and that's something, the recycling, I do try to separate and segregate that kind of trash flow. I don't want to, I hate assuming things, but I would like to think that I'm pretty typical, that if given the chance, we will reduce our own trash and things to that nature. My point is, there's no options. This is a contract, and I get it, and contracts through municipalities kind of have to go with one business. But what would happen if we let the current contract fade and we didn't have another contract and we let individuals choose their own services? As a city, you allow that to be, hey, here's the phone number for one trash pickup, here's another phone number for another trash pickup. I see how you won't get the money and you won't be the manager of the funds, but at least I'm not paying for a second or third person in my household based on these numbers for this contract. I have a hard time with our bag system because I don't like giving Econo Foods $12, $15 for something that, like was said earlier, it's already paid for. Apparently I'm paying for it, and right now I owe you guys $45 for about that rate. So part of what I'm coming up here for is to say, we as a city, and you have a lot of college students, so we as a city don't have an option to deal with curbside pickup. And that's all I'm asking for, is that somehow you figure out, at least for this, the other 2 numbers, the things that are coming up after this, where you have the city contract and you have special pickup contract, by all means, set up a 20-year contract with anybody you want. 5-year would be better for everything involved, but a 10-year, yes, please. But as far as city residents go, you don't give us an option. We don't have an ability to say, there are times I go so long that I don't have enough bags in the house because I haven't gone out to buy bags in a while. I can put things in the Glad bag, and that can sit in my garage, and I can wait for that, and I can fill that up. And by the time that gets filled up, I buy a large bag, and I'm good. But I can't buy one. I have to buy all 15. So in some way, what I'm asking for and what I will completely ask for is the variety. And if we as city residents get an option, then you are doing us a service. If you are saying to us, I, a single adult male with a dog and cat, have to pay the exact same rate for garbage as a 4 or 5 person household, I don't think I'm being served properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Verito?
Frank Jeff Verito, these are my opinions. This comment is intended to provide ideas without leaning too much toward what method to go with. Our current bag system works well aside from animals sometimes getting to the bags ahead of the haulers. Also, a fair number of residents still confuse the fiber and rigid weeks. Otherwise, I like the bags because they're well constructed and only took up as much space as the garbage inside. By morning, they're gone with only the small recycling bins to be taken in, not 2 larger bins as proposed. We've all seen the impact caused by people who aren't good about bringing in their bins in a timely manner. In cities that use the bin system, bins are in constant sight even when it's not the garbage pickup day for those neighborhoods. They're big and cumbersome, and there's no way to make them attractive. Only residents with ample space can effectively hide them. I do like the idea that the proposed recycle bins would be smaller than the garbage bins. And how do you account for renters? My weekly garbage takes up the amount of space as a volleyball. A large bin is too much to set out just for that, and there are a total of 4 parties on our property. Do we each receive a bin? The thought of seeing 4 large bins out by the street is unnerving. Another factor with bins is that leakage from the garbage inevitably accumulates on the bottom. Liquid often drips even from the plastic bags, creating stinky situations during the warm months if the lids are left open. Even for the user, it's no pleasure to lift the lid, the alternative being to routinely clean them out as our water rates skyrocket. The assertion that the bin option saves each resident around $30 annually is attractive. If the bins are deemed advantageous, further investigate their ideal size, durability, and color by inspecting them, not just by reading the supplement. Earth tone colors are the best. Set guidelines for when the bins can be set out on the curbsides and by when they must be brought in, and enforce them. And where are some of us expected to hide those bins? We'd have benefited had you brought in sample bins for us to examine. That they were seen at work sessions is no reason for them not to be observable here at the point of decision with a wider audience to see them. Lastly, because a perfect transition from bags to bins is impossible for all people at once, and it's stated you have to buy the whole package, not one at a time, we need to make provisions to have our money refunded for any unused bags. If the change is made, please make arrangements at City Hall or at the supermarkets that sold us the bags. Thank you.
Mr. Albee?
Alan Albee, Minocqua, Wisconsin. Several years ago, we met with Rick Aho from the Marquette County Solid Waste Association to discuss options for recycling for this county. Rick even came down and toured our facility at that time. After Rick left the county, we met Brad Austin on multiple occasions to discuss the benefits of collecting recyclable single stream. Months prior to the city requesting bids for their trash and recycling collection, we met with Scott and Kurt from the Public Works Department. Our goal was to convince them to bid out the city's collection with the option of carts and single stream. Through the bid process, in addition to added convenience and simplified recycling, we have proven that the cost collection savings associated with carted trash and single stream collection is very substantial. If the city of Marquette moves forward with Eagle Waste's proposal, these cost savings and this most modern collection system will be available not only to Marquette, but to all municipalities in this area that have interest. I believe if all other municipalities realize the huge savings available to them with our presence in this area, they would strongly push you to accept our bid. Our company has grown 20-fold since 2005. This is the result of our small family-owned and operated company values, our focus on efficient service, our ability to always look outside the box, and our fair pricing. Trust me, the current haulers in this area do not want us here. If you choose to hire Eagle Waste tonight, the benefits to this area are significant. We will immediately hire at least 4 people. We will purchase property here. We will add substantial competition in this area. We will strongly promote recycling and provide cost-effective solutions for everyone that feels strongly about protecting our environment. No one will have to purchase special bags again. You'll be following the state of Michigan's stated best management practice recommendation of collecting single-stream recycling using carts. We will work with the city on any locations that have special circumstances that making using carts difficult. Please note that change is often difficult. However, we have converted many municipalities in the recent years, and those residents that were skeptical typically are thanking you after the fact, after they've been exposed to the new system for a short time. The conversion and use of a carted system will be substantially less problematic in the short term and long term than this hybrid system that has been discussed. Even though it might seem best to try to please everyone, this will result in substantial problems and complaints for the city. I will commit to work with the Marquette County Solid Waste Authority in any capacity they desire if we are selected. I have proposed options of working with Brad in the past and will continue to do so. Everyone's making our proposal out to be detrimental to the county program. However, I personally believe it's a tremendous opportunity for the both of us. I thank you for your time and this opportunity.
Thank you. We need a motion. Someone care to make a motion? Commissioner Plord.
I move that we authorize the city manager to negotiate a 7-year contract using bid alternatives A, bags, and B, carts for nighttime curbside residential solid waste collection services with Waste Management Incorporated of Michigan at the unit prices bid.
Is there a second? Commissioner Frazier.
It's okay if I make a motion to suspend the rules for discussion. We can each put our 2 cents into the thing, or that.
We've discussed this to death.
Your Honor, is there a motion on the floor?
There's a motion on the
And
floor.
you need a second before you can entertain something else, so.
There's a motion already on the floor, so can we even call? Well,
You have to entertain this motion. I mean, at least get a second, then if someone wants to make a motion to suspend the rules, I guess that's their business, but we need to follow through with this one.
with the motion.
At least getting.
Okay, we have a motion. We need a second. Commissioner Conley.
I'll second.
City Attorney, question. Do we not have to do the suspended rules before we do the motion?
No, I think he can ask, if it gets support, you can suspend the rules and.
If he gets the support.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Frazier.
I'd like to offer suspended rules for discussion. We could each put our 2 cents into this big agenda item.
Is there a second? Commissioner Cambenzi.
Support.
We have to vote on it?
Yes.
We have to vote.
I have a question. What's the difference? We have a motion on the floor. We're going to discuss it. We're going to suspend the rules and discuss it. Would you clarify this for me?
Well, there's a technical difference in the sense that there's a motion to suspend the rules. I agree with you, in the long and the short run, it's going to work out the same. But I think his motion is proper. It hasn't been voted on yet, so we don't know if it's going to be, the rules are going to be suspended. We'll go back to your motion if that happens.
And by our rules of procedure, it takes 2/3 to suspend the rules, right?
I think we've been operating under that, yes.
So it would take 5 votes?
Well, take
4.6 or something like that.
yeah, something like that, yeah.
So it would take 5 to suspend.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, we still have to vote on suspending the rules. All those in favor of suspending the rules on this, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
No.
No. The rules are suspended. Talk away.
Point of order.
What?
Rules of procedure require a 2/3 vote
It's four.
to suspend the rules. 2/3 of 7 is 4.6. You have to, we can't
So we-
split people. It's 5 votes.
Can we have a roll call?
Certainly. Commissioner Cambenzi?
Yes.
Commissioner Conley?
No.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Plord?
No.
Commissioner Reynolds?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baldini?
No.
Mayor Campana?
No.
Defeated.
It's a 2/3 requirement to suspend the rules under that motion. And what was the vote tally?
4-3.
No, then we're back to the main motion.
Okay, we're at the main motion. We're not suspending the rules. We're still going to discuss it. Okay, we have Commissioner Plord made the motion. Commissioner Plord, do you have any comments?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to ask Mr. Albee a question or two, if you please. Mr. Albee, the proposal was for a 7-year contract. Why did Eagle Waste submit a 10-year contract?
There were 3 options, and the bid request did not require a response for all 3 options. It was optional. So there were a 7-year option for a bag program, there was a 7-year option for a carded program, and a 10-year option for a carded program. Since Eagle Waste would be investing substantial amount of money to go up to this area, because we can't service Marquette from Eagle River, we would have to build a facility. We chose to keep our costs down, to go with a longer term option that was available in the RFP or RFB, so that we could capitalize those costs over longer term to keep the costs down.
It's my understanding that Eagle Waste has a one-arm process. Would you explain that and tell us how it would work?
Yeah, the carded program, we operate exclusively with an automated truck. So we've switched to automated equipment years ago for safety reasons. The difficulty of hiring qualified employees, the wear and tear it takes on drivers getting in and out of equipment, slips and fall issues. We found that in order to keep good drivers long-term, beyond the age of 50, that it was important to have equipment that they would not necessarily have to get out every stop. However, we do realize that in the city with some special needs and some elderly, there are some hand pickups that we would have to get out of the truck, but we minimize that. So we went to a truck that has an automated arm that comes out and grabs the cart and dumps it into the front of a bin in the front of our truck without the driver exiting the vehicle.
My understanding about that process is it's very noisy. Is that correct?
No, it's absolutely not. The arm is hydraulic and it's only dumping. I mean, you might be confusing a side load over the top truck that dumps over the top. Ours is a front load style, and so the tipping height is only about 3 feet. So you're just tipping it about 3 feet, and then it fills in the bin in front of the truck and only has to dump that over the top once out of 20 stops or something like that. And then you can choose where you dump it if you want to. If it's at night, like the pickup here, you may choose to dump in certain locations so that you don't disturb people.
And so then in that case, it wouldn't require a change from nighttime pickup to daytime pickup?
No, it wouldn't be any more intrusive than the current system, and possibly less so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Conley?
I don't think I've heard from as many city residents as I have on this issue in 3 years. This is something people are passionate about. It affects them once a week, and actually maybe more than that if they have to trip over a garbage bin or store the darn thing. So they're very passionate. Some are binners, some are baggers. Some want to save a little bit of money. But I think the most compelling argument that I heard was people that felt it would be a hardship to store the bins. They live on a 50-foot lot someplace on the east side, and there's a lot of those, and there's no place to put the things, particularly 2 of them. And I think if we force people in those situations to take bins, you're going to have people saying, okay, well, if I have to bin, I'll get a small one, and I'll just get one. And all of a sudden you have a single stream, everything. And less goes in the landfill because all the cans, all the bottles, everything goes in that bin, and I just want to be done with it, and I'll horse it out to the curb somehow and pick it up when it tips over, when the plow hits it, and. There are some hardships, particularly on narrow streets. So I think if we mandate bins for everybody, we're going to create hardships for a lot. I want to be able to allow people to choose for their own households, and even if somebody chose mainly a bin, and that week it's snowing hard in February, they don't want to horse the thing out to the street, and they just put everything in a bag and take it there, and the crows aren't in February anyway. So just based on that, it seems to make more sense. I've raised some other points. Regional cooperation. We're in this landfill together. We helped build it. It's ours. And if we abandon it, and one of their major programs, we're going to hear about it from everybody around us and say, see, Marquette doesn't get along with anybody, and we deserve that reputation if we hightail it on this one. So regional cooperation is a big thing. Choice is a big thing. And I'm not convinced that the numbers presented, and I'm a little resentful of the outside interference, the radio ads, the newspaper ads, in trying to manipulate the local political process here. It just bothers me a lot.
Anyway, I think the cost analysis presented is a little idealized in favor of one side. I don't think that the cost analysis that was presented is going to apply to everybody and that we can generalize the savings. We had a saying in medicine, we tortured the numbers until they confessed, and I think that's what happened here. So I'm going to go with the contract of choice and support the local efforts to recycle. And like I said, I think there will be more recycling with the choice system than there will be with mandatory bins.
Commissioner Reynolds.
Well, as Commissioner Conley said, it was the most I've heard from residents via email, phone calls, all sorts of things, and it comes down to exactly what he said. We're talking $20 a year difference in actually going with this contract. It is cheaper still sticking with waste management, and $20 a year between the two places. And my decisions came up to generally older folks have contacted me and they want to remain using a bag system. People of my generation are interested in a cart system, and I think in order to do this, we should do a hybrid system. I think ultimately everyone's going to get excited and there's going to be a lot of cart usage. But I think that the reason that we have this combo system seems like the best way. As detailed in our supplement, and I told this to the city manager, I do want the continued effort to single stream recycling, and with our solid waste, I'd like to see that in the future. Things like drop-off bins, we still have that with waste management, and I know me as a person, I forget to put my trash out all the time. So the only other question that I have remaining is for the city manager. This is to negotiate a contract. When will this come back for a contract? Because it's October that we run out.
Well, the current contract expires October 1st, so it would be before then.
Okay.
Commissioner Baldini.
Like Commissioner Conley, I mean, I've received a number of letters, phone calls, people stopping us on the street, and to talk about solid waste. Very polite, with opinions, and all very insightful. Why the current system is better, bags are better, maybe the carts would be better. But the overriding theme was, I want to have an option. Okay, and perhaps as Commissioner Reynolds said, eventually it may come to carts, but right now they want an option for a whole series of things. I went back, I sort of keep scraps of paper, and when we first started talking about this issue of solid waste, I wrote myself, what were the issues I was concerned about? And I wrote down three things. One, the impact on community, especially the individuals, convenience, and finance. Two, the impact on the county landfill. And three, recycling. And like my colleagues, I'm obviously concerned about the cost, but not all cost or other policy objectives are covered in a bid. And we should remind ourselves of several facts. One, we were one of the major driving forces of getting the solid landfill facility with the county. I know I agree with Commissioner Conley that we're part of the county. We're a very large part of the county. And we are a community that has taken a lead also to continue and be part of recycling. We've done that. We've prided ourselves. We had a discussion on that a month or so ago also. We're also the largest consumer or user of the local solid waste, and our action or inaction will have an impact on that solid waste facility. And the current provider of this service, Waste Management, has built a facility in the community, and it pays taxes in the amount of $23,726, of which about 8 or 9 of that goes to other parts of the county. The rest of it is the city, the schools, so on and so forth. The bag system, if you recall, not everyone does, but the bag system was put in place in the city in a way to encourage individuals to really reduce their garbage and to recycle. I recall that discussion. I don't know why I do, but I do, and I wasn't a commissioner. But they said that if we have people with bags they will put their recycling material in the bins that we have, whether it's bottles, and we all know that, papers and so on and so forth. And this will keep that out of the landfill because it's going to be recycled. And we went that way, partly because we wanted to get into recycling. I think the numbers are a bit skewed in that it assumes, and they have to have some assumption, that everybody uses a bag a week. I don't. I know a lot of people told me they do not use a bag a week, but so be it. And I fear that if we start moving our recyclables out of state, it will negatively impact the landfill and could have some consequences for the rest of the county. And I think it was mentioned, I think by Commissioner Conley or Plord, that the bigger bin becomes very convenient to just dump everything in. And recycling then would go down. And it's part of our master plan. It's part of what we've talked about. We want to stress recycling. We are an advocate for it. I think all the commissioners here are. And so I think the dual system, go for a dual system. Our current one, Commissioner Reynolds may be right that when I'm off this commission, older and move on, that perhaps the community will want to go to some other system. But I'm in support of this recommendation and this motion, so thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier.
I too got a lot of emails on the subject, and it's been a good waste of our time in so many words. It's good that Eagle came into the subject because it helped lower our bid waste management. They said, oh, I guess we have to lower our bid. Like many times when you want to do a house or something like that, you offer contracts to several people bid on it, and that's the way to get the price lower. If you just go with one person, the bid's high. There's nobody. They said there's no competition. So now there's competition. Waste Management lowered their bid, so that's a good thing. I like the cart idea only because I've researched it a little bit, like everything else, like I do for other stuff. And I've talked to people out of the state that deal with snow, and they said no problem. Shovel a little path like you can walk, and they roll just fine. I know storage could be an issue for some people. I have a garage. I throw mine in the garage. I have one big bin in my garage I only use sometimes. I haul, like other people said, my work is a dumpster, and if it gets full, I'll throw it in the dumpster at work. And I have other people that live in the city that also own business in the city. And they say they don't buy bags. They don't deal with curbside recycling or garbage because they just bring it to their work and throw it in the dumpster for collection. And so I think, yeah, they don't really care either way. I know people have worked for one of the waste management. I know people that have worked for everybody, but it's all about what the city prefers. I'm glad the cost has gone down. I like the bid thing. I also like the single stream recycling. I know the landfills talked about maybe going to that eventually, and Eagle has offered to help them with that. Maybe because I've watched Eagle's video. They got a fancy place. They're willing to do something like that in town eventually. I know Waste Management has a local facility in town. Whether or not they stay there, I don't know. I mean, I just guessing after going to the hospital's headquarters years ago and seeing all the little developments near their place, that Waste Management with their hospital put up a couple $2 whole fancy place, they may not want a garbage dump next door. I don't know. Now it could be a brownfield place for us. I don't know. It could be, they may have to move eventually. I don't know. That's just another concept I'm just having. I like the, as far as trucks, I know Waste Management have like 2 or 3 drivers in one truck, have a couple guys hauling off the back, driving around town, haul the garbage in and spill. Garbage doesn't get spilled, but I see recycling gets spilled all the time. And our city trucks get blamed for it, even though I've seen plow trucks not on the road the night before and recycles all over the road. So it's not our plow truck driver's fault. It's laziness by the other guys. But as a former truck driver, I know that if not as a garbage truck by any means, but as a construction truck, I used to drive construction trucks with rear controls, and you had to have 2 or 3 people operating at all times. This new version of the truck is very nice. One driver sits in the cab nice and warm year round, operates everything from the cab. It's much easier for everybody. I mean, our trucks at our shop that are driver operated work wonders on contractors. Just love them, because it makes everything easier. So, and also Waste Management, Eagle's said they're willing to work with landfill and everything, and they've also said they would help schools save money and help schools teach kids how to recycle. Single stream is great. That's what Waste Management used to have years ago, until landfill, I think, changed their mind. But, Waste Management has single stream at their shop. I know, people forget to put the garbage out once in a while. Me too, Sarah. Garbage forget. But recycling gets overflowing all the time, either one or the other. So I have to make a stop at Waste Management. I saw a couple weeks ago, I stopped there, and their one bin was full, and people just piling stuff all around the bin. There's more recyclables outside the bin there were, in the bin. So, it's just something, things that will happen eventually, and I look forward to, sometimes you just have to look for somebody else to take over. It's a national, Waste Management is a good company, but they're a national company. Ego might be a local place, and be good for more operations locally, so.
Thank you. Commissioner Cambenzi.
Well, I have a few questions for the Solid Waste Authority, probably Brad. With this coming out in the paper, I agree, I've never gotten as many phone calls as I did in the last couple of days, and the one thing that really sticks out is the bolded, highlighted bullet point of Eagle Waste bid for carted trash and recycling collection was approximately $2 million less than the next lowest bid. And I think almost every person I talked to mentioned that. But what we don't see in here is what is the cost of one new cell at the landfill, if we can even get one?
Sure. Currently right now for landfill space, permanent landfill airspace, 1 acre is approximately $500,000 is what it would cost to permit that. Cells on average at the Solid Waste Authority average between 5 and 6 acres.
Okay. And right now, what's the lifespan of our landfill?
Well, the new construction permit has been received, so the current life of the facility right now is estimated at about 52 years.
Okay, so if the city pulls out and you can't continue the recycling program, do you foresee the landfill filling up a lot quicker?
Well, I think that, overall, it's critical that we continue to divert materials. I think that's the one thing that gets lost, and part of this is it becomes about the value of the material and what we get back per ton and what all those things mean, but what we don't talk enough about is what the impact is on the landfill. Just as much as it was important for the Solid Waste Authority Board to return the 5 cells back onto the construction permit, we got into this side of it as far as diversion because I felt, and we felt as an organization, it was just as important. We're putting more capacity on, but can we turn that 52 into 62, 72, 82? Because at the end of the day, what it costs right now, we all know as we move forward, that landfill airspace acreage will cost much more.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the factors that I weighed heavily with this. The fact that the recycling program could very well fold if we pull out and don't use our own county facility.
Well, that's certainly an impact, and it's something I think the Chairman Yell has alluded to in some of his comments, that, at 52% of the volume approximately, we would have to relook the program overall in regards to being able to maintain it. That's a huge volume. That's being, taken out of the what we receive, so.
And do you have a cost to move from dual stream recycling to single, in terms of what you would need?
We have not identified a cost to that yet, and in regards to it, and I've heard some of the commissioners, they talk about the possibility of single stream recycling on the residential side. The authority's intent is to remain a dual stream facility on the residential side. And there's 2 parts to that. There's contamination of material, and there's also the labor to sort that material in a processing facility. We currently run the dual stream residential program and equipment with 3 employees at our facility. Most single stream facilities I've seen have been upwards to 12 to 15 employees on the line. So there's a labor issue and there's a contamination issue. We are exploring the potential for commercial. single stream recycling. We understand that the volume of that material, 80% of that volume is a fiber or paper product, so we wouldn't have as much of the commingled or the rigid material there. But those options are being evaluated. We're putting together a business plan, come to our constituents and present that and make sure we have everything in order before we make any moves. Right now, the residential dual stream is streamlined. It's running about as efficiently as it can. Next move for us is take a look at commercial single stream.
So if we approve this contract with Waste Management, would residents have to, like, where would they'd have to actually keep their recyclables somewhere else in a different container and then make sure they only put in the rigids or the plastics?
Right, we would maintain the dual stream system, so you would have, if there was residents that went to carts, they would have their materials placed out on alternating weeks, fiber and rigids, and they would have to place those in on the appropriate weeks currently right now, yes, under the current system.
Okay, and I guess maybe my next question is for our city manager. I mean, I guess the bulleted point, at it being $2 million less versus Waste Management, I think this is causing a lot of people to look at us and say we're not being diligent with the taxpayer dollars. And I know Commissioner Conley alluded to the fact that numbers can be manipulated to kind of tell their own story. But can you, I guess, help explain if we pass this tonight?
A little bit, and Scott is more the authority on this than I am, but the number is closer to 1.8 to a little over $1.8 million difference in the contract. The Eagle contract is for 10 years, and the Waste Management contract is 7, so it's not really a fair comparison for 10 years to 10 years. I'm sure if we stretched out the Waste Management fees for another 3 years, the numbers would be closer together as far as the difference. I mean, there's no doubt that the Eagle contract numbers are better than the Waste Management, but in my opinion, the maintaining, at least from what I've received as far as impact, maintaining the hybrid system as well as the current recycling program is worth the few extra dollars a week to the consumer. And keeping in mind that the new proposal provided by Waste Management is still cheaper than the current proposal. So if you want to look at it that way, no matter which proposal you take, it's still cheaper than what we're paying now. So it could be cheaper yet, possibly with Waste or with Eagle Waste, but in my opinion, that difference is not significant over 10 years.
Commissioner Plort.
Thank you, Brad. Yeah, just a few more comments. Thank you, Mr. Ludenberg and Mr. Verito. Their comments are important as well, and I'm just like all the other commissioners. I've got a lot of comment for and against this contract, that contract. Overwhelmingly, though, again, with the comments that I got, and maybe some of the same people who contacted all of us, they really, really want the option. They want the bag, and Mayor Pro Tem Baldini is absolutely correct. The bag system was put out to really push people to recycle, and it's worked in our household. We absolutely recycle. We've been doing it since day one. I think it's very important to realize that there are people, whether they live alone, or there are couples. We have a couple right next door that just the two people there, and they generate about a bag a month as well. And it's important for those people, in my mind, to have that option. I've researched the carts as well. I've looked into it like other commissioners have mentioned. Some people really, really like the carts. The people that I found, though, that really, really like the carts are the people that are younger and have larger families. There's a significant amount of people in the city. I'm one of them who's a senior citizen who's a little older. I probably can manage the cart without any difficulty, but I know other people who cannot. And they want that option. And so in that case, I will be supporting this. And thank you, gentlemen, because you brought up some very good points that I do want to discuss with the city manager as this contract unfolds.
I'd like to take this time to thank the 3 companies that did submit the bids. Bids were competitive, and this decision is not coming easy for us. Personally, I wanted my decision to be based on, what is best for all the residents of Marquette. As like with the others, I've received numerous emails, phone calls, face-to-face opinions. Cost is always a factor, but it was split 50-50 amongst the people. Half wanted bags and about half wanted bins. Well, I personally believe bins will probably be the future. There's still a good amount of people that want the bags, so we have to keep them in the picture. Then there's the issue of the county landfill and the support of recycling at the landfill. I probably, like everyone else, wants to see recycling continue in Marquette County. The landfill presently cannot process residential single stream. They can only do dual stream. If the landfill does not get Marquette's recycling, residential, which accounts for 52% of the total, this could create a financial hardship to continue the recycling process for the rest of the county. That could lead to a drop-off in recycling, which means now more material is going to be going into the landfill. This is a theory. And landfills, the whole goal is to extend their life. If all of a sudden you're dumping more in, obviously you're going to shorten that life. City of Marquette was instrumental many years ago in establishing this landfill, and I feel we need to keep it efficient, and keep encouraging more recycling, not only from the city, but from all the other municipalities within the county. So this is a cost. There's a cost to that landfill if it fills up faster than we'd want it to. So after factoring in the cost of not filling it up, I feel that the best choice is to stay with waste management. Thank you. Commissioner Cambenzi.
I guess I just have one more question. Is there someone from Waste Management that would be willing to, not realizing that this, the bulleted point saying that the carted trash and recycling collection is about $2 million less over a 10-year contract. I mean, I guess, do you have any comments on, I guess, that comment in terms of why you are so much
We have
higher?
name, address.
Sure, Mark Herrick, 1125 Keewaydin Street in Negaunee. A year ago, I moved from the city of Marquette, where I lived for a long time. We are empty nesters, and we are averaging about 1 bag a month now with our house. And I think that's the biggest thing. I've been to communities all over the UP, and it always ends up down to this. Houghton and Hancock and Newberry, people just start saying, okay, yeah, we got a price to visit the house, and then, but we don't want to, don't want to be told what to do. And usually at these meetings, it's the people my age or older that are bringing up this situation. So if you take what our price is, and for the how many constituents you have, the cheaper alternative is the going with bag. But then you got a lot of people that feel that I like carts, I like the way it is, I got a garage, I've got a storage bin. So we were really thrilled. I mean, I've been busy with Scott and the DPW for 7 years. And, we've always talked about it. We said, hey, we got 2 compartments in each truck. We've talked about organics in the truck. We've talked about, garbage 1 week, organic the next, fiber, rigid. We were the instrumental in actually getting the first community to start the dual process. And we love working with whatever options you have. So I guess that's the big thing is that you asked for a bid. You asked for three or four different things. As a business, we figured out where we wanted to be, and Eagle figured out where they wanted to be. And all I can say is that we're really proud of the options we gave you.
Okay. It didn't really answer.
Oh, so go ahead and do it again.
The two 10-year bids, yours was about 1.8 million more than Eagle, and that, for the 10-year contract. And I guess that's what's sticking with people is
Yeah.
why wouldn't we go with the low bid?
Well, there's companies that have a lot of choices how they go about trying to get into a market and get into business. And then they can sell you that, they're going to do all these things once they get in the door. But how do you know? I mean, and we are the largest recycler in the country. We are the largest recycler. We have carts, we have bags, we have businesses that do organic, we have anything you can think of, and we have the most efficient MRFs in the country, which are recycling facilities. And I think the key is that just like anything, you can always get a cheaper price. You can always do it. Is it the best? Does it give you the options you want? And has it been here? It's a known commodity. So I guess that's how I can explain it. What our profit level is going to be different than everybody. Everybody doesn't have the same profit module of what they want to be at. So we balanced it, and that's how we came up with the prices.
I guess my uneasiness is that because each vendor kind of came up with what they wanted to do on this, do we have a level bid all across the board? And I don't think we do. I think, one vendor chose not to do the two lesser bids. The other two did both of them, and they were higher. So I guess my question is, to be fair and completely transparent with our taxpayer, should we reject the bids and put out another bid with specifically what we want? We want a 10-year contract. We want, the option of bags. And we want the recycling hauled to the Marquette County Solid Waste Authority. Because right now, how do we explain to the taxpayer that we're going with the higher bid? I guess I'd like to hear anyone's thought
Commissioner
on
Conley.
that.
We explained to those folks that we're taking into account more than just the low dollar bid. We're looking at other factors. We're looking at the hardships that a bin-only system would impose on a significant number of our residents for $1 or $2 a month. Multiply that out by 120 months, maybe you got 1.8 million, I don't know. But try explaining that to and I'll be there one of these days, to the old guy trying to horse a cart out to the street, over the snowbank in that, and tell him why, and there's about 2 inches of waste in the bottom of that bin. Tell him why we're saving money now, so you have to use that cart. So there's more factors. It's more complex than just dollars. There's the human factor too, and that's worth something to me.
Commissioner Plard.
I'm convinced that the residents of the city of Marquette have done their homework. With all the people that have contacted me, they know the numbers. They know what the price is going to be. They want the option. And I think as elected officials, we are absolutely required to consider that option. We also need to consider the people who have just a little bit of garbage here and there, the empty nesters, of which there are quite a few. People who live by themselves that are really only going to provide or have a little bit of garbage maybe once a month. The point that Mr. Lutenberger mentioned, that when he says, you're penalizing me if you make this across the board the same price, I simply produce less garbage. He has the right, I believe he has the right, since with what our history has been with waste management, to pay less because he generates less garbage. Simple as that. And that's fair. But it's very important for us to remember that we've been contacted by a lot of people who said they want the option. And that, I think, is worth the change in price. They don't care. They've seen it. They know the numbers. They've told us what they want.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier.
I agree with everybody else. I've got both opinions either way. I mean, some say yay, go with carts, and people say yay, go with bags. I see people go both ways. And I personally think it's a pain to have to, I check the city website. Thank God the city website has the banner on their page that says what recycling is this week. Because I always forget. I mean, I know you put it on every week, but my garbage is on Tuesdays. I forget by next Tuesday what recycle. So I put my recyclables out and then come back the next morning. My recyclables was still sitting there. Oh, shoot. It was, cardboard week instead of plastic week. I forget that. So I have to haul my plastic recyclables back in the garage, put them, and then run to the waste management local facility. I got a question for waste management. Come back up here. I know you do dual recycling for, everybody for pickup and stuff like that, cardboard, then the plastic, which week. But I know at your shop, we never forgot, I have drop stuff, you got your dumpster outside, sometimes you say, okay, put it in the dumpster, you have single stream at your shop. How does do you separate that before you bring it to the landfill? And then once it gets to the landfill, how do they probably package it up and ship it somewhere else, or how does that work?
No, the single stream is kept in single stream, and it doesn't go to the landfill. We would like it to go to the landfill. Problem is, though, is that the landfill really has to keep it separate. And if we put it at the curb, and people love bringing it there I'm there on Sunday, and I'll probably see 5 cars at 2 o'clock on a Sunday. It has to be single stream because we can't rely on them putting it in the right spot. People come up there and they just say, oh, recycling, and they just find the right container. So, and they start putting it in organics, which is a little rough. So that's a free service. So yeah, that's the reason why I say single stream, unless it was manned all the time.
I was wondering if you had that problem with the waste, the recycle bin, the waste management, the organic. What are people start? Oh, just throw in that one. It's recyclable. But I was wondering if you had that problem.
Brad would call me.
So when I know you fill up the one bin you have in your garbage place for recyclables, and do you just fill those dumpsters and then ship them somewhere else, or where do those recyclables go that get dropped off at your
Currently,
place?
they go to Eagle Waste, and because they are the closest facility that we take them to. But it really is a free agent. There's talks of doing things all the time in various spots. We look at it, how much does it cost? What's this striking to the environment with gas and truck on the road? Because the fact of the matter is, from Copper Harbor or anywhere, we're really rooting for the Marquette County solid facility to start recycling at a more heavy level, because how much damage are we doing hauling stuff to some place? So maybe it's a benefit to recycle it a long way, but you got the diesel and the fuel and everything on the road and the trucks and everything else. So we're shooting for, just like we've always been. I have a really great relationship with Brad and the DPW, and we've always been in partnership with trying to get them to be as big and as powerful as they can.
That's good, because I know our company, we get a lot of supplies from all over Michigan, Wisconsin, and we found a trucker that's really nice that backhauls. He hauls someplace, and then we say, okay, will you just pick up a load and bring it back to us? And they're willing to do that. Some places we have supplies in different parts that they say, well, you leave room in your truck if you get the supply from someplace. And then we had one supplier, we get all stuff from Green Bay. But then they shut down that facility, and we have to go all the way to Detroit to get it. So we had to hire a trucking company to go and get that for us. So, I was wondering, I mentioned that before about your single stream at your shop, which is nice, close by. But I was wondering what you did with that. And I wonder if the landfill, they probably someplace they send all their recyclables to. Do you know where they send their recyclables to? Any clue? Or
Our landfill?
Yeah.
Our landfill takes care of it themselves.
Oh, okay.
So, but that's their goal, is to expand. And by having a partnership with us, we're all for them expanding as much as possible.
Thank you. Commissioner Baldini.
I'd move the question.
Going to call the question. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
No.
That carries 6-1. We move to our next new business item, which is contract award for BP 17-12, solid waste collection services for city facilities. City Clerk, background, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Background, the current contract for solid waste collection services expires on September 30th, 2017. A notable change from the previous solid waste bid package is that the term is for 7 years. The solid waste bid package is one of 3 main service areas that include residential curbside collection, municipal facility collection, and special collections. The term of the contract will be October 1, 2017 through September 30th, 2024. BP 1712, solid waste collection services, city facility collection, focused on twice-weekly dumpster collection of garbage and single-stream recycling collection from 10 city facilities, plus the litter barrels in the business district. Bid packages were sent out to 4 regional vendors, and the bids were publicly displayed and noticed. 3 responses were received, 1 regional bid and 2 local bids were opened on May 25th, 2017. A bid tab is attached. Fiscal effect, year 1 of the new contract represents a 3.1% decrease over the final year of the last contract. The 7-year value of the new contract is approximately $184,578. Recommendation, award a contract for solid waste collection services at city facilities to North Country Disposal, Inc. of Marquette, Michigan at the unit prices bid. Alternatives, accept an alternate bid or as determined by the City Commission.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Commissioner Plort.
I move that we award a contract for solid waste collection services at city facilities to North Country Disposal, Inc. of Marquette, Michigan at the unit prices bid.
Would there be a second? Commissioner Baldini.
Support.
Commissioner Plort, any comment?
Pretty self-explanatory.
Commissioner Baldini, anything?
I agree, it's self-explanatory, the numbers are there also,
Comments anywhere else? Commissioner Frazier?
I think their dumpsters are already at the city site, so, I mean, it's big expensive to remove all the dumpsters, so might as well just stick with them. It's a good idea.
Thank you. See no further comment. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Yes. Opposed? That carries 7-0. The last new business item, contract award for BP 17-13 solid waste collection services for special collections. City Clerk, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The current contract for solid waste collection services expires on September 30th, 2017. A notable change from the previous solid waste bid package is that the term is for 7 years. This solid waste bid package is one of 3 main service areas that includes residential curbside collection, municipal facility collection, and special collections. The term of the contract will be October 1, 2017 through September 30th, 2024. BP 1713 Solid Waste Collection Services Special Collections focused on select solid waste related services that were intended to be awarded separately and may be used as needed. The bid requests pricing for seasonal rubbish collection from a city drop-off site, annual hauling of Christmas trees from a drop-off site, and or bulky item collection. Bid packages were sent out to 4 regional vendors, and the bids were publicly displayed and noticed. 3 responses were received, 1 regional bid, and 2 local bids were opened on May 25th, 2017. A bid tab is attached. Fiscal effect, hauling rubbish drop-off containers is included in the monthly residential fee. The 7-year value of the contract is approximately $322,400 and is covered by the monthly residential service fee. Years 1 to 2 of the new contract represent no increase over the final year of the last contract. Fees for hauling large or bulky items are paid directly to the hauler by the resident using the service. The 7-year value of the large or bulky item contract is unknown. Recommendation, award a contract for hauling rubbish drop-off containers and a contract for solid waste collection of large and bulky items to North Country Disposal, Inc. of Marquette, Michigan at the unit prices bid. Reject both bids for Christmas tree hauling. Alternatives, accept an alternate bid or as determined by the Commission.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Who would like to make a motion? Commissioner Baldini.
Let me get my mic on. Award a contract for hauling rubbish drop-off containers and a contract for solid waste collection of large and bulky items, North Country Disposal, Inc. of Marquette, Michigan, at the unit price bid and reject both bids for Christmas tree hauling. So moved.
Thank you. Would there be a second? Commissioner Plord.
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion?
I believe the clerk's description early on, is pretty self-explanatory and covers it.
Commissioner Plord, anything?
No, I agree.
Commissioner Conley?
I have a question for the city manager. Tell me about the Christmas tree hauling. Sorry. Yeah. Hey, what?
I'll let Scott handle that.
We always put the bid out there. We have for several years now. We've just found that the most cost-effective way to do it is still the 2 drop-off sites, and we'll just process them through our composting facility.
Oh, you were talking about curbside hauling as opposed to, I was thinking, well, we're just going to leave them in the pile at Lakeview. I'm sorry. I didn't it wasn't clear to me what we were doing. Yeah. Okay, so the city hauls them to the composting pile, wherever that will end up being.
Correct.
Thank you.
Comments anywhere else? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Yes. Opposed? Carries 7-0. Now we come to our last public comment of the evening. Again, it's the opportunity to address the commission. You have 3 minutes. We need name, home address, city or township. Going to open public comment. Does anybody wish to speak to us?
Thank you. James Gallant, Marquette County Suicide Prevention Coalition, 538 Yelmer Road, Scandia. And I would ask that the City Commission would please support the newly introduced legislation last month concerning suicide prevention and trainings in the schools in response to our recent loss of our friend John Kivala to suicide. This is going to be going through. They're going to have the hearings this fall. And I've been invited to help draft this legislation and the training portions. And so I would ask you to please request of your city manager and your staff the comprehensive report concerning the Marquette County Suicide Prevention Alliance, in which the city of Marquette is a founding member, has been charged by the Marquette County Board of Commissioners to design and implement a Marquette County suicide prevention program, which they have been doing for the last 3 years. And that would be helpful for our discussion in Lansing about how we're going to put this together, to consider the impact of that design that they have agreed to, that the city of Marquette has agreed to. And I'm not sure who the members are. Different people show up at different times. If the city commission even knew you had a member, and I would ask you to please appoint a member so you know who it is and what their positions are. And about the governance model of the local alliance, and so that we can try to expand this statewide. And in my analysis of the meeting minutes and the report that came from the county administrator, it appears that the efforts of the city of Marquette has had a net increase in the risk for suicide in our community over the long run because of this training model. And it appears that several thousand people have been trained. That's good. But they all got the same training. They all got the 1 hour go to the library introduction to this QPR gatekeeper training. It is not specific to the profession. And there was an article in Marquette Monthly in December of 2014 that kind of explained all about it, from the health department explained it. And they said that they have senior centers, child protective services, a school, health, got Ishpeming and Gwynn health centers, and that they've all got the same trainings. So they've all been taught just to identify somebody who may be at risk or have warning signs for suicide, and then refer them to somebody else. Except for these are the people that are getting referred to, which would be the counselors, and there are specific trainings for that. And the QPR Institute, I'm working with them to try to pull together a comprehensive program for Marquette County, and to get the right trainings in the right hands. The national strategy calls for competent workforce, so they have to have the trainings for their role in how they address suicidal behavior in the community. And I would hope that we could keep this discussion going a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Frank Giaverito, these are my opinions. Last Monday, I called City Hall to find out if any concrete would be used to repair the old Dead River Bridge, fearing there may be a conflict of interest because Mr. Fraser seconded the motion and voted in favor. The lack of response after a week of patient waiting is concerning. Perhaps no concrete is needed for the project, or provisions have been made with a competitor. Mr. Fraser is asked to clarify. July 10th, Mr. Pellord said, "My math is improving a little bit. Keep taking the class," end quote. That's meaningless. He then mentioned 3 incidents where people were almost run over, including 2 women crossing against the red light at Washington and 6th Streets. He said 6th twice, except the closest red lights are on 5th and 7th Streets. The guy who criticizes my math without telling us why doesn't seem to know the differences between 5, 6, and 7. Mr. Pellord is asked to respond to what's said on record instead of building on something that was never implied with, to begin with. Only then can we begin to understand each other. July 10th, Mr. Campana rightly corrected my allegation that he hadn't read an agenda supplement when in fact he'd referred to papers that his preferred developer had handed him only hours earlier. Days too late, but this developer is given whatever he asks for. The chair is free to correct me. However, he inflated his response to insinuate that I'd accused this entire board of not preparing, which wasn't implied whatsoever. I once accused Mr. Fraser of not checking out a patio, but who else lately? I'm well aware that most of our members prepare for untold hours with piles of pages to read. Mr. Campana's vehement reaction to my oversight was most telling. Others also correct me now and then, usually on some tertiary point. No one's perfect at all times. Their occasional responses bring to mind the many, many more times that allegations against them, especially Mr. Campana and his predecessor, went unanswered. We can therefore conclude that when they don't respond, they're guilty of the allegations, many of them nasty, such as the recent times have accused Mr. Campana of not treating people equally. His silence is a case of sheer cowardice. The record suggests that he's all about who's who, not the credibility of what's said. At least I admit my flaws, which can tell the audience a lot about who's more truthful in here. Strange as it seems, admitting my mistake actually revealed how guilty, or allegedly guilty, the accused members are. They respond only when they have an easy answer. They're on record ignoring key components of fire safety, being wind and carelessness, in a town where drunkenness is condoned, if not encouraged. They're accused of procrastinating on the erosion issue at Picnic Rocks and of not opening at least the safe portions of Lighthouse Park that we waited far too long to enjoy.
Matt Ludenberger, 1406 Garfield Ave, here in Marquette. I guess I have 3 minutes to explain myself, and with the primary coming up, I have a feeling like there's a lot of issues that are going to come to head in December, and this is an ongoing thing with democracy, is how do you limit, I guess, the variable? How do you tell somebody that you have an idea, you'll be helping us pay for this idea, but yet we're going to keep you to 3 minutes, and this person who put us into this idea and charged us $20 million, but yet has unlimited time to talk and discuss things and defend themselves. This isn't an individual project. I'm not talking about tonight. I'm talking about in general, democracy requires that we have an open discussion, and I would like to see the city of Marquette encourage itself to have, you have work sessions on everything. Have a work session on the democracy process. All right, now that's enough. I came up here to really talk about the recreation in this town. I want to present recreation opportunities. I want to let people, tourism is our marketplace now. We have to accept that. Mining isn't, logging isn't, construction of big buildings isn't going to be much longer than 5-10 years. Tourism, though, is already selling. It's already been up there. When I went down to Marquette Mountain and the new construction that's going down there, you guys discussed about it last week. It's huge. And I mean, it's huge. It took out all of the dog walk areas and all of the mushroom hunting areas and all of the thimbleberry patches and all of these raspberry patches that I've used for the last 20 years. So it's huge. I would ask you to turn to them and say, can you build the infrastructure up from the river? Can we set up pump stations and gallon size, multi-gallon size reservoirs that our pump trucks can get to? Because our fire chief is explicit. We don't have well trucks, we have pump trucks. So in that sense, let the wells be created down there in this new development and tell them to do it now and not in 20 years when we have to redesign the road. I guess, again, 3 minutes is not enough time. I wish all the best for the summertime, but please enjoy our beaches. I would like to take my dog to a beach. How come there's no place that we can take a dog to a beach? You guys got a Clark's Landing, which used to allow dogs, and now you own it, and you restricted most of your citizens from going down there, or at least charge them because they're going to get a ticket. Same thing with the hammocks. How many trees did you cut down for the municipal center? And the answer is about 85. And you're going to charge people for the 4 trees that they put hammocks on? Put spikes in those trees. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Does anyone else wish to address the commission? Seeing none, we're going to close public comment. We're going to go to comments from the commission. Commissioner Conley.
We've had a wonderful 3 weeks since our last meeting. We've had some great events. Art on the Rocks, and I want to thank the mayor for providing for the weather. And Hiawatha Music Fest, again, yeah, that was pretty good weather. I'd like to remind folks that a week from tomorrow, if you haven't voted absentee, is an election. There are, it's a primary election for City Commission, Board of Light and Power, and state representative. There's also a very important library bond issue. The library is asking for less than a full renewal of the bond that we provided to build the addition to the Peter White Library almost 20 years ago. And the libraries across the country have changed. We used to check out books, now we check out digital material. And the library's trying to update to the 21st century and provide some other programs that are needed to keep up. It's amazing how fast stuff changes, but it's going to cost taxpayers less than what they're paying for the bond right now. So I would encourage folks to get out next Tuesday and vote and keep in, I don't know that I can advocate for this, but I want you to keep in mind the needs of the library too. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Plord?
I want to thank the city staff for a great Blueberry Festival, for one thing. The city has done a great job, police department especially. Again, the police department doesn't get to enjoy that as much as they have to keep order, and so thank you so much. But to all the local businesses, the city has kept their bargain. They've provided some great events this summer. There are some more events on the way. A lot of things to do. The Blueberry Festival was really, really well attended this year, as a matter of fact. And talking to people who were involved in it, they loved it. And so I asked the local businesses to be aware of that when the Chamber of Commerce comes to you this year when they talk about 4th of July celebration for next year, especially 4th of July. A lot of the tourism and a lot of the events in the city of Marquette pivot around the 4th of July, and they just keep happening, and that's what's going to happen right through September. So it's city staff doing a great job of putting that on, and I appreciate that very, very much. Mr. Verito, thank you so much for giving me something I can finally use at public comment. It was outstanding. Seriously, your comments about when we were discussing the solid waste comments were important, and I liked them a lot. Same thing with Mr. Lutenberger. It's important to note that maybe we do need a system where people can turn the bags back in and get money. Maybe we have that, and I don't know. We're going to find that out. But I definitely appreciate that. And everybody else that contacted me as far as all the issues that we do, I've known that people are paying attention, and you really proved it this time, especially with the solid waste management contracts. Very, very important that we hear what you want, especially because we are elected officials. And I'm not going to speak for this board, but I'm convinced that this board really, really does want to do the right thing for the city and the right thing for the citizens that elected us. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Reynolds?
Well, I also echoed Commissioner Plord's comments. This was the first time that I've heard so much from the residents, and I really appreciated that. I also had the chance to go to Blueberry Festival, which I could barely walk through, which is exciting that many people were there. I went to the 906 for lunch, packed and a huge wait. Also, I attended my first Hiawatha Festival. Of living in Marquette for 14 years, I went to my first one, and it was awesome. Like the little communities that are like, I didn't camp, but we walked through the camps and the communities and the offerings. I had people offer me a beer or a sandwich. Just walking by, everybody was so friendly and so welcoming. It felt like a little different kind of community in Marquette. So I really appreciated the cooperative of giving me a ticket. So with that, I have nothing further this evening.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Baldini.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have, first is a resolution we adopted this evening, the consent agreement in recognition of our election workers. And it really is a very long, they go to school, they get educated, they have a very, very long day. And according to the resolution last year in 2016, they put in over 4,000 hours, which is the equivalent of 2 full-time people, really. So we passed that, and I want to commend them. And a week from this Tuesday, as Commissioner Conley noted, there is an election. Also, I wanted to mention that Price Durfelt has died. Price Durfelt was very, very instrumental and a very large part of our sister city program with Japan, and worked very extensively on it. Really brought it to a point probably where it's at in the collegiality between the two countries and the cities. Also, I noticed that Veridian at the old Tirolohof is proceeding with its building, and I'm glad to see that. We were going to have to do the water infrastructure there, if not this year, next year, or the year after. They asked us to speed it up and agreed to a contract on a time schedule, so that's going to be moving forward. Also, many of you, speaking of recreational things, saw the article in the New York Times. Fantastic article about the UP and a great deal about Marquette. And I did fill the boot this week. I think a number of you did. And it's amazing when you're standing there, the number of cars coming through that line from out of state. It's very, very significant. Also, on August 11th, we are dedicating the public service garage at 10 a.m., I think, yes. And that's Friday. We won't have another commission meeting until the 14th, so this will come before that. And just one last thing, on our way out tonight, you can wish Commissioner Reynolds her birthday. It's her birthday today. Happy birthday. She's 29.
29.
Thank you.
Commissioner Frazier.
Is it her anniversary of her 29th birthday? Or I know I had a teacher in 5th grade that was like her 40th anniversary of her 21st birthday or something like that. So I wonder if you got an anniversary of your 29th birthday or something like that. You know, I won't get into details. I'm sure women don't like to get into details about that stuff. But summer's finally here, which I'm happy to see. We've had all 4 seasons in one summer. We had fall, spring, almost winter a couple times. You know, summer's finally here. Trying to avoid having a nice waste of a meeting here. It's a beautiful day, but according to city rules, we have to we can't include the meeting via Skype. I was joking with the mayor and city manager about, said, I'll be at the meeting, it'll be a meeting via Skype maybe, if I could do that. They said no. I said, come on, you got a great tech department, couldn't we do that somehow? They said no. I said, shoot, there goes nice waste of a good night. I mean, you get so few dates here in the summer, we have these great So summer just kind of got here at the end of July, when it was just horrible in June. But good weather's break. Good transients. I spent the weekend musing. That little town's growing like crazy. The restaurants are caught out. It used to be just a small, little, quiet town, but with all the tourists going to Pictured Rocks boat cruises, just crazy. I saw people lined up for like 2 blocks waiting to get on those boat cruises. I mean, we call them fudgies at Mackinac Island. The amount of fudgies in Munising are just gone crazy. All the hotels were sold out. The restaurants were full. Everything. I mean, they're going like crazy, and it's good to see. And I know people are opposed to some of the kayakers around the island, but along Pictured Rocks, there are fleets of kayaks. I mean, there are companies that haul their kayaks out to Pictured Rocks and launch them, probably 20 at a time. You see them like little ants all over the place, just up and down the rocks, just crazy. It was a good time, though. And speaking of rocks and people, I saw a lot of tourists, too, in town. You'll see the tourists because they know you're tourists because they're license plate, and they stop at the yield signs. You know, everybody's got the yield signs to protect pedestrians going across crosswalks. People in our town stop. If there's nobody coming, they stop at the yield sign. I'm like, oh boy. They stop at the next yield sign, the extra 10 feet. So I can tell they're tourists just by the way they drive half the time. But tourists is good because our marina a couple years ago hardly had any tourists. They called transients, people from out of town to bring their boat up. But lately, our marina's been full with visitors from out of town. And Munising was full, too. A lot of people visiting. The weather's been great, so Bossier is going like crazy. I'm like, waste got decided, which is great. I'm happy, they're looking at, hybrid system. People keep their bins. People can do garbage bags wherever they want. I don't like garbage bags because I ran out the other day after coming home a late night of work, maybe city stuff, and I was out of bags. Shoot, had to run to the store, get a bag to put my garbage out that night, And so I'm glad they got a hybrid option to do whatever you want. And so other than that, I look forward to maybe a couple more days. I think heard it's supposed to drop to 60 maybe eventually, so fall will be back again. But I think we might be okay. Summer might be here till maybe September for lucky. And this company's trying to save the city money, and they've looked at maybe some hybrid options for the police force. Maybe a couple, Toyota cars that get 30 miles a gallon or something they could use just around town. That have a couple fast patrol cars they could call in maybe by radio. They always say back in the old days people used to try and escape a police car. You can't do it now because of radio. So I'm thinking maybe the chief police could get a couple of these little hybrid cars for people to drive around town, but they can call in the heavy duty people to chase people off if they chase somebody down. So other than that, hope everyone enjoys the good weather and look forward to nice weather coming up.
Commissioner Cambenzi.
Well, I think we had a lot on our agenda, and I'm actually shocked that it's just a little after 9 and we're going to get out of here. But I will say with the garbage contract, truly what tipped me towards approving this tonight was we didn't have a comparison for a 7-year contract from Eagle. Our cost with this contract will be less for residents. We can keep the bag program. And the city still is providing 50% of the recycling at our landfill. And if we pulled out of that, there's a good chance that our county program would fold. But lastly, I think, the ad that was taken out in the paper and certainly the radio ads, I mean, this hit all of us as commissioners by surprise. And there's a lot of information on here that several commissioners have said it. Depending on how you look at the numbers, could make it look like we're being completely irresponsible with the contract we chose. And so I think it's going to take a lot for us to actually work through this with the residents. That didn't help. For me, it didn't help gaining a contract with us. There is a lot of information that we were sorting through. Again, but the trust of the public, I mean, we need to be the ones who are in control of those numbers and the information going out. And what this did was undermine all of us as elected officials in our community. I'd like to thank Commissioner Baldini for mentioning the loss of Price Durfeld. He was instrumental in one of the founding fathers of our Sister Cities program, which is still going strong. And in fact, we're sending one of our Marquette area public school teachers over there to Japan this summer to work with the school and hopefully get a school program started. So the longer we keep it going, I think the more commonalities we find. In fact, one of the first programs I went to, Jorma Lincoln had the group from Finland over, and they were actually interested in looking at how we utilize our forest industry and certain techniques that they could bring back to their country. And it was fascinating that, you know, between our small communities, there's a learning exchange like that going on. Lastly, there is primary coming up August 8th. I think the most important thing I want to get out to residents tonight is not only to vote, but I've heard a lot of people say that our public library is looking for a millage, and it looks fine how it is. And I think the biggest thing I want residents to think about is we have a huge structural crack that not only runs in the foundation, but it runs all the way up the original building of our library. And it's going to be over $1 million. I think it was $1.4 million to fix. And that's the main reason that they're coming out for this millage. There's some carpeting that's worn, but the main reason that they need a bond like this is simply because there are some big projects that they'd like to do, and I would like to ask everyone to support it. It is still the center of our community. They have 800 to 900 people every day go through there. As well as, several other communities that support our public library. So please consider that when you go to the polls. Thank you.
Thank you. We need to give a salute to the Marquette City firemen. As was mentioned earlier, they coordinated the Fill the Boot, which is always the last weekend in July. I, and along with several commissioners, participated along with the city manager. He actually put in his time. I believe I heard they collected up in the neighborhood of 11,500, which totally goes to the fight against muscular dystrophy. So a very good cause. That's about the amount they get pretty much every year. And that comes through the generosity of the Marquette people and tourists and just people driving by. We're standing at the intersection holding the boot, and they're digging out dollars, $5. We've seen $20, the spare change. Anybody and everybody, people walking by give it to us, so very commendable. Again, I would like to mention that day after tomorrow is the spare tire turn-in. Get rid of those spare tires from 3 to 7 at Lakeview. Lastly, please vote August 8th. It's a week from tomorrow. We do have some important issues and some important elections. Thank you, City Manager.
Thank you. First and foremost, happy birthday to Commissioner Reynolds, and thank you for coming to the meeting tonight. I had to beg and plead with her quite extensively because apparently traditionally she doesn't, I don't know, she isn't awake at this time of night on her birthday. I'm not sure what the exact situation is, but her birthdays are usually celebrated in a different fashion than coming to a commission meeting, but thank you. I have community office hours a week from Wednesday, August 9th, 10 a.m. at the Peter White Public Library. And lastly, I want to recognize and thank Scott Combenzi, first of all, for taking the lead on the disposal, the collection, disposal, or garbage collection and disposal effort on the part of the city. It was rather complex. He dedicated a lot of time and made a pretty good effort at making this work for us. And also Eric Steeman, who left early. But he headed the whole Johnson Control effort along with the Johnson Control team, and that was quite an effort in itself as well. And thank you to the commission again for your continued support and letting us move forward with what we are trying to accomplish. So, thank you.
We are adjourned.